Live betting reaction to all of the night's action. You're tuned in to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Patrick Meagher, Dustin Swedelson, VSiN Live.
Okay, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio on a Friday, May 2nd. We say hi. Hope you're having a nice week as we head into the Kentucky Derby, 151st running tomorrow. So Derby Eve today. I'm Patrick Meagher live from Los Angeles. The big guy, Dustin Swedelson, Las Vegas. Ryan Smith on YouTube in Vegas, youtube.com/VSiN Live. Isaiah Ramirez back in New York City. And you, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. So a lot to do today, an end of an era in San Antonio with Popovich stepping down 29 years. We'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. You do have a couple of games. Let me set you up and we'll get into the show. Rockets, Warriors, that will tip off at 6 my time, 9 your time on the East Coast. The Warriors can close out the Rockets. Remember, they should be plenty rested. They were down 27 at the break in Houston in Game 5.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
Midway through the third, the rest of the way. Kerr had to do it and had to save them for the home game tonight to close out Houston. Golden State laying 5.5. We'll discuss the bets there. The Jets at the Blues. The Blues looking to stay alive against the Jets, and St. Louis about $1.15. And 5.5 on the total. So that's where we start with the games tonight. It's not a very busy slate as we're kind of awaiting some of these series to start. And speaking of which, we're going to have a series between the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. Now, let me give you a series price just to give you some context. And for bettors that don't understand this, this will give you an idea of what the market thinks of the Knicks and their chances against the Celtics. The Celtics are a minus 800 favorite. As far as the second round of a postseason, I've been betting for a really long time. I can't remember a number like this, to be honest with you. That means you have to lay $800 on the Celtics to win $100 if they end up beating the Knicks in this series. The other way is plus 550 on the Knicks. $100 brings you back $550 on the Knicks. So obviously the market has no faith in the Knicks. And the Knicks last night, they had faith in Jalen Brunson. And that's where we're going to start, Dustin. 40 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and the backbreaker, the three-pointer that ended the Pistons season. I'll just say this, and we were having fun with some shtick on the show yesterday. Good friend in New York City who's got tickets to the Knicks asked me before the Knicks-Pistons series started, you going to come out if there's a Game 7? I said, sure. Absolutely snap call. I'm there. My assumption was, 1, there's no chance there's going to be a Game 7. 2, I would love to see this friend. But 3, there's no chance there's going to be a Game 7 because the Pistons are led by a 23-year-old Cade Cunningham, and they won 14 games last year. Well, last night with about 5 minutes to go, it looked like there was going to be a Game 7. And then I'll ask this, and Dustin and I were talking about it. As far as across the 4 majors, is there a more clutch player right now than Jalen Brunson? 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. And beyond that, I'm starting to think of like historically, because sometimes you just go by feel. And when there were 5 minutes to go and they're down big as there's 3 minutes to go and 2 minutes to go, they're still down big. You still felt like you had a shot if you're like Dustin and a Knicks fan because you had Jalen Brunson. And there was one point now beyond the three-pointer that he hit to end the Pistons season and advance the Knicks. There was one point, and Dustin, I'm sure you remember this, where he was working his ass off, and he was just trying to get free and crossing up players. Here come the double teams. Thompson was playing great defense, a sore for the Pistons, and somehow he ended up going baseline and under the basket. And then he wanted to reverse himself, and then he almost fell down, and then he did reverse himself, and then he came up with a reverse layup to cut it, I believe, at that point to 1. And at that point, I was just like, I'm done. This guy is stupid good. But that really was a thrilling last 5 minutes last night. As a Knicks fan, my assumption is you're fired up.
I mean, that play that you talked about was absurd. I thought his knee was going to snap in the middle of the jump up for the layup. The numbers are crazy when you start to look at what Brunson did.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
In the playoffs, that's the highest pace since 97.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
21 points in clutch time. That is the most in the postseason. Go back to last year. He had 41 and 12 to eliminate the 76ers. Last night to eliminate your Pistons, 40 and 7.
Too many
Closeout
donks are
games
sitting
at
around
his
watching
best.
White
And
Lotus.
the big thing I keep thinking about with him,
Too many
it's not
donks are
just
sitting around
clutch.
watching
It's
White
not just
Lotus.
coming up when it matters. It's that I trust him so much more in the closing minutes of a game. It's not that I don't trust him in the rest of the game. It's that in the 2 minutes, it's like he sees
Too many
something
donks are sitting around watching White
Somehow
Lotus.
the game slows down for him when others are panicked.
Too many
and he
donks are
seems
sitting
to be at
around
his
watching
best.
White
So
Lotus.
I started thinking about athletes that are like that, where, look, they're great for the whole game, but in the final 2 minutes, they go off to a different echelon of player. It's a short list, and he right now is at the top of it, especially when it comes to current players.
Yeah, if you can add to the list, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888 623 3646, a heroic performance from Brunson last night. If you think about the number that I laid out with the Celtics laying 800.
Too many
to win
donks are sitting
100,
around
so
watching
$8.
White Lotus.
If you think about that number, I really think all you have to do is watch the last 5 minutes of the game. Beyond Josh
Too many
Hart,
donks are sitting around
Karl-Anthony
watching
Towns
White
is a
Lotus.
non-factor. Maybe he had a big rebound late or something.
Sure.
But when you need a big shot, he had given you big shots early. But he's more of a stat patter. He'll never be a dominant player. It's not even if you know ball and you're watching Karl-Anthony Towns, you realize he's just a guy. That's it. He's literally just a guy.
He is a guy that at the end of the game you go, he had 27, 12, and 5? Didn't really notice.
You know what he is? He's the
Too many
antithesis
donks
of
are sitting
Jalen
around
Brunson.
watching White Lotus.
When all of a sudden Brunson becomes the 7-footer and Karl-Anthony Towns shrinks to 6'1". Like in the big moment, they just go the opposite way. One gets big, one gets small. Literally, figuratively, that's Cat. And that's Brunson. But look, to finish my thought, if you're watching it and you're wondering, why are the Celtics such favorites in this series? Well, it's pretty simple. The only reason the Knicks beat the Pistons, who aren't a great basketball team, is literally because
Too many donks are sitting around watching White
Mikal
Lotus.
Bridges had a nice tip in towards the end and had a nice game. But overall, at the end, the Pistons were hunting Jalen Brunson, and it didn't matter. He still won the game by himself.
And, okay, on the series price first, to this point, how differently is it priced if it's the Pistons? It's a little bit longer for the Celtics. They're probably going from minus 800 to minus 950. Pistons, instead of the Knicks being plus 550, are probably plus like 650, 7-1. It's not that great a difference. And think about the roster disparity. The Knicks have so many more veteran players that have been through us with so many more accolades. And it's the Detroit Pistons just have Cade Cunningham and a bunch of role guys. That lets you know what the market thinks of this Knicks roster. But one thing that blows my mind about that final shot, man, is JB Bickerstaff completely coached circles around Tom Thibodeau the entire series.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
Thompson was defending him well for the most part, but how do you allow Jalen Brunson to beat you with the ball in his hands on that final play? How is there not help? How is there not something else happening there? Dare someone else on the floor to beat you, because if Josh Hart hits a game-winning three, or Mikal Bridges, who misses left and right in the fourth quarter, misses a shot, you know what, you tip your hat and you go, congrats for beating me. But for Brunson to be allowed to make a play with the ball in his hands with the game on the line, to me, that was one spot where JB Bickerstaff made a mistake this series.
Well, that was Thompson on him, right? On the last play?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. There's a city near Detroit called Hamtramck. Well, Jalen Brunson crossed up Asur Thompson to Hamtramck. We could talk about should have thrown a double team. Asur Thompson's a great defender.
Yeah.
That actually highlights the brilliance of Brunson. Dude, people say you put him on roller skates. Thompson literally, he almost fell down, and by the time Brunson was shooting the three, he was 12 feet from him because of a crossover. And Thompson knew exactly what he was doing.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
It felt a little premeditated from Brunson, whereas all series, what he would do when Schroeder was on him late, he would back him in and back him in this spot. I think Thompson initially anticipated him trying to back him in with 16, 17 seconds on the clock. Instead, Brunson drops back on him. Thompson goes flying. And by the way, as soon as it left his fingertips, you knew that shot was money. There was no doubt once he got the look he got that Brunson was nailing that shot. I have 6 athletes on my list outside of Brunson where they're athletes who are great, but in the final couple minutes of their games, all across sports, I trust them historically more than everyone else. I put Brunson in this category as well. But these guys are built different. When it matters the most, they step up and make big plays. And Jalen Brunson is one of the rare guys we have going right now where when it's crunch time, you just let him do whatever he wants to do.
Well, he won the clutch player of the year, correct?
Yes, he did.
So this leads into
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
In the history of sports talk radio. Who's a more clutch player than Brunson? Because he was literally just handed the award. And the night, I believe maybe it was game 5 and then game 6, but within a game, he went out and put on one of the better clutch performances you're going to see. It was just incredible. What stood out to me was his ability when he is being hunted and everybody knows that it's going to come down to him, his ability to be relentless, tireless, create when he's just dribbling in circles with bigger men on him. He can't even use, I mean, he's so good with leverage and he's so good with just simple movements, but he can't use pure strength. It's not like he's a LeBron. He just has to create. It's wild.
Yeah, the angles he gets aren't like if you just took a snapshot of Jalen Brunson in the air, seeing the angle he's having to shoot at to get these looks, you would think there's no way he's making most of these. Yet they all go down. And this stat blew me away. I saw this making the rounds. Brunson has scored 76 points in the clutch in the playoffs going back to last year. So last year into this year. That's all in 57 clutch minutes, 76 points. The next person behind him on the list is Anthony Edwards with 37. Brunson 76 in clutch moments in the playoffs. Edwards 37. That's the gap.
You know, it's funny too, when as soon as the game's over, and this is what's lame and also what's fun about sports and what's lame and fun about sports talk radio and social media, because as soon as that game is done, immediately people start saying greatest Nick of all
Too
time.
many donks are sitting
And then
around
you'll have
watching
people
White
saying,
Lotus.
not even top 5. And then so you just have like the disparity in comments, the disparity in ideas about what Brunson means to the program, what Brunson is, and the lure of the program is fascinating. I'm not a Knicks guy. I obviously know the history of the Knicks, so I'll let you all fill it in. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. But he's certainly a maestro, and it's a joy to watch him. It really is.
I think that's it right there, what you just hit on. It's a joy to watch him, where someone like you who roots for the Pistons, that's invested in them, you know, upsetting the big bad Knicks who get all the hype all the time. You can come away from this series going, man, I just appreciate what that guy did. That tells you everything you need to know about what Jalen Brunson did this series.
Yeah, so, you know, Mikal Bridges and OG had 25 and 22, respectively. Josh Hart and Karl Anthony Towns scored 13 and 10 points, respectively. The center grabbed 15 boards. We actually talked about it before the game. That is exactly what you needed from Karl Anthony Towns, and he gave it to you. Also, from a betting perspective, the reason I like the Knicks is because the margins were so slim, and I said they were going to make their free throws, and I think they went like 22 of 26 last night. So that was going to correct itself from how poorly they shot from the stripe in game 5, and it did last night, and that was the difference. I believe in a 6-game series, the margin of victory was the closest maybe ever, meaning the point differential between the Pistons and Knicks. It was like 1 point, 2 point, 1 point, 2 point. So over a 6-game series, it's right there as one of the closest series of all time. And it was great. Like, if you contrast it, and we'll get to your calls, 888-623-3646, your clutch player, as Brunson has won the clutch player of the year in the NBA, and apropos, good timing, he gave one of the better clutch performances you're going to see to save the Pistons, to eliminate the Pistons, because we talked about it yesterday. If that went back to MSG, we were going to be on the Pistons. There is no doubt about that. The late game, so we expected the Nuggets and Clippers to be a great series. The Knicks and Pistons has absolutely pummeled anything the Nuggets and Clippers have gave us. Like, the Clippers 111-105 last night win was a snooze fest.
Yeah, that series came out hot, where it was interesting with LA stealing one on the road in Denver, and Denver answers back, and we thought we would have something. And look, it's starting to fizzle. The shine of the Clippers that you felt coming into this series, it's rubbed off a little. you're just watching the Nuggets labor, especially late in these games, to find their way at times. Yeah, that series has not had the buzz that we expected as of like a week ago. However, they are giving us a game 7. And game 7,
we're going to get a game 7.
That's all we're going to remember is what happens in game 7.
They're going to be overshadowed by journalism and 18 other horses in the Kentucky Derby, but they're certainly going to give us a game 7. Building on what he did in the postseason last year, which was wild, with an injured roster and just carrying the Knicks, and then coming into this series and continuing to do what he does. First off, you marvel at the idea that the Mavs let him walk. That story is history, and now the Knicks, they reap the rewards of the Mavs' stupidity, because they've got I'm not saying he's the best Knick, but certainly modern day, the best Knick you're going to have as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I tell you. I grew up in the Patrick Ewing era. That was my guy. I never thought anyone would surpass Patrick Ewing for me, and I always felt that the Knicks never gave him the help he needed to get past Michael Jordan, never gave him the help to like really be a championship team. I love John Starks. I love Charles Oakley, but I don't know what their roles would be on the Jordan Bulls in that era. I don't think they're getting the shots and relied on as much as they were on the Knicks. I can officially tell you this. Just 2 postseasons in, and Jalen Brunson's still young. He's younger than you think. Jalen Brunson's the best Knick of my lifetime. I didn't watch Walt Clyde Frazier. I didn't watch all those guys back in the day that won the title for the Knicks. I can tell you, in my lifetime, born in 1985, Jalen Brunson is a better Knick than Patrick Ewing. Facts.
You might what he's saying might seem bold, because he did just join the Knicks ahead of the 22-23 season, and he still has plenty of time to cement his legacy. But it's a hell of a start.
He's 28.
I agree with you there. And I'm going to say this while watching Minnesota the other night, because at the time it felt like, I mean, there was debate, but it did feel like most said the Knicks absolutely robbed the Minnesota Timberwolves. I much prefer have Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle than Karl Anthony Towns. I don't even think it's close.
Oh, no.
I think Towns stinks.
I think you're onto something here with the Towns thing, just because the way the Knicks play, they need depth. And by the way, remember in the moment, you and I did not like the trade. We had to come around on the trade, and a lot of it was seeing the stats from Cat and go, you know what? He's a dominant player. Well, we weren't actually watching the games. We're just watching the box scores. The reality is, with the way Tibbs pushes these guys, they need as much help off the bench as possible, because whenever they go to those guys, the bogged down offense and the lack of looks and the inconsistencies offensively, it's a glaring issue for the Knicks, and that's why the Boston Celtics are just going to beat the daylights out of them in this next series.
Yeah, there's a big difference between waking up the next morning and looking at a box score and being a basketball player. And Karl Anthony Towns, because of his remarkable innate skill, is always going to fill up a box score, but he is not a winning player.
No, but if the trade turns into Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, whoever else, and Giannis Antetokounmpo coming to New York, the trade was worthwhile.
Yeah, if the Bucks are stupid enough to take Bridges, Hart, and Cat for Giannis, then the trade was an effing home run. That is well put. And you mentioned Tibbs. I'll say this. The angry yet confused yet constipated look constantly on his face, and mostly in the waning minutes of basketball games, it may just be confusion, because his coaching late, it's non-existent.
Oh, no, I'll be straight up. The way that game was going and the lack of adjustments being made, and I thought Bickerstaff was really smart with substitutions, with approaches, and attacking certain guys on both ends of the floor. I thought Bickerstaff was the better coach in this series. Had the Knicks lost that game, they should have fired Tom Thibodeau and let someone else coach Game 7, because whatever Thibodeau's doing is not working there.
888-623-3646. All right, let's open up the phones. A lot to do on a Friday, as we've got a Game 6 in the NBA, a Game 6 on the ice, so kind of a light night. Again, Kentucky Derby tomorrow, so we're going to get you plenty when it comes to the Kentucky Derby. Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Express Bet is going to join us coming up at 5 o'clock my time, and so plenty to do. But right now we're talking Brunson, we're talking NBA postseason, and clutch players. Let's go to Boston and open it up with JJ today. Hi, JJ.
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? How you doing tonight?
Hey, good, JJ. What's up?
Oh, man. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to say that Charles Oakley and Robert Horry are kind of the same human, if you want the comparison there. But I also wanted to coin a new phrase, because we all remember Dennis Scott and the controversy behind that push-off in games with the Jazz and whatever. What happened last night, we can call, because Brunson isn't that big a dude, as you guys said, as the judo push-off. Like, he's already overcommitting that way, so he sent him into right field. And that's what gave him that wide-open look. Now, as far as the betting goes, as far as where you can lay your money, and there's a fix on 6 with the Knicks, man. It's you got to keep the New York population. You got to keep Stephen A. talking. You got to keep everybody hyped up. So you want to know that the Knicks are going to win 1 in each venue. They're going to win 1 in each garden. So the Celtics in 6 is actually a really good bet to have. It's going to come down close. Brunson's going to brick something in game 6. Well, it's the Taylor's oldest time, but the Celtics in 6, precisely in 6, is the bet to go with, man.
Okay, well, you can bet exact series. So what do we have? Celtics in 6. You're going to get a good number, I'm sure.
I actually agree with him. I would bet Celtics in 6 and Celtics in 5. So Celtics winning 4-1 pays plus 205. $100 brings back 205. Celtics 4-2 plus 450. If you were to put equal units on each one, you could end up slightly up if it's just Celtics winning 4-1. And if it goes to 6 and the Celtics win, you could end up a few more units. So I like both of those as options here, because I don't see the Knicks getting more than 2.
So just to answer JJ's question, Celtics in 6 is 4.5 to 1.
450. Yes, sir.
Okay. If the Celtics play with their food, we'll get a 5th game, but we shouldn't.
Even if they do, I think they're so good it doesn't matter. If the Celtics
I don't know
play
if
with
they're. I don't know if they're healthy. That's that Knicks
that's
team.
fair.
Good.
No, that's fair.
I don't know if the Celtics are healthy. I'd love the Knicks to make it a series. That's not a good basketball team.
The Knicks? No, the Knicks. The Knicks are.
I'm sorry, that is not a good basketball team.
No. You know what
the
they are?
Pistons aren't a good basketball team.
No, that's the point. It took this much to get past them. It took all that effort to get past the Pistons, who are okay. They're fine.
I mean, the Pistons, they've added nice pieces. Hardaway Jr., anybody could have had him. Malik Beasley, anybody could have had him. And those were complementary pieces. They have 2 tremendous future. Duren's a future star. Obviously, Cade's already a star. And we'll see what happens with Asur.
If the Knicks were in the West, they would have been a play-in team. They are not better than the Thunder, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, or the T-Wolves. They would have been in the play-in in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. And the East stinks. So you do the math. I'm not even being I'm fine with the Knicks. The Knicks, I jumped on the Knicks bandwagon when I watched them in the postseason last year because I love Brunson. But all I could think watching last night, that was an entertaining basketball game, but it wasn't great basketball.
Yeah, no. You can enjoy something that isn't quality. It certainly wasn't quality. It's like McDonald's. I enjoy it. It's not high quality, but every now and then it hits the spot. That's what last night was.
Let's go to South Florida and say hi to Willie here on VSiN Live. Hi, Willie. Willie.
Ain't no Willis here.
Oh, who's this?
All right, buddy. What do you got?
What do I got? I got Towns. This is the worst trade we've made since John Stock hitting those rocks with Riley leaving. It's disgusting. The man can't handle it anymore. We need a center. We shouldn't have let the 2 kids from Villanova go. We needed to pick up even a body out of Germany or somewhere. The Borg, wherever country he comes from. But I don't see us winning more than 2 in Boston.
I agree. I apologize. bad phone connection. I going to Germany just to pick up a random body for some reason made me laugh like that. You know what? Maybe. Sorry, your name wasn't Willie. I don't know who you were, but good call. Maybe there's a conversation. Like while Brunson, we're asking who's more clutch, and you can go across the four majors. Who's more empty as far as calories than Cat? Because I'm watching last night. It was shocking his lack of an impact. Like,
yeah,
who
especially
absolutely goes nuts. Just makes it look sexy by like if you just I didn't watch last night's football game, hockey game, basketball game, baseball game, and you look at the box and you're like, damn, that was ridiculous. And then you watch the game, you're like, is he on the court?
He gives me Dak Prescott vibes. That's the vibe I get from Cat. If you check the box score after the game, you go, man, Dak Prescott threw for 360 yards and he had 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception, but they lost by 10. And most of that was empty calories, fourth quarter, coming back, throwing from behind. Karl Anthony Towns, because he can't create and he wants to live on the perimeter when in reality, the matchup last night was back down Harris, go right at Duren. You're so much more athletic than them. He wants to be something he's not sometimes, and that's the issue.
Yeah, he is. And again, the reason we're
Too many
having the
donks are sitting
conversation is
around
because
watching White
obviously he's a
Lotus.
good player. You can't have this conversation unless it's a guy that was drafted high and is thought very highly of. He did grab 15 boards last night. We said he's got to get more. It's just, and this is probably not the best time to have the Cat conversation because he was big for the Knicks in games 3 and 4.
Sure.
However, watching last night, Brunson needed something. Hart was there. Bridges was there. OG was there. Cat was ghost. That is literally, what was he drafted? 2, 3, 4? So somewhere in there. Like that Brunson, the ball shouldn't have been in his hands late because everybody knew they were going to collapse on him.
Yeah, that's the point, is that everyone knows Brunson's going to be ball dominant in those moments. There should be opportunities for Cat to showcase what he can do.
Cut to the basket, bro.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
He's been quoted as saying, I'm the best big shooting player in the history of the sport. As far as a big man, I'm the best shooter. And maybe he is. I have no clue. Bill Laimbeer was good. No, just playing. I have no clue. But when you want to identify as that, that's an issue.
Because I need you to do the other things that make up a big man. If you're going to be out there, you're going to be playing the 4, sometimes playing the 5, and the matchup dictates that you have a mismatch, we need to take advantage of the mismatch. And a lot of times that mismatch is a guy in Tobias Harris who can't hang with you, especially if you hit like baseline runners, you go to the basket against him, he can't defend you. If it's Jalen Duren, it's a little bit different. I would want you to pull him out on the perimeter, but for the most part, Cat isn't a guy in clutch moments you trust. And I think the NBA is littered with them. Let me give you one guy off my list of athletes I trust more in the final 2 minutes of a game, and a caller mentioned him, Robert Horry. Robert Horry, in clutch moments, hit a couple big shots to win finals. That is a dude that most of the game, he's fine. Final 2 minutes, you trust him more.
Big shot, Bobby. Yeah, I guess. He's ridden off hitting a lot of just wide open corner threes for his career. He couldn't. I don't know, but if you looked at his regular season stats for his career, did Horry do anything? I understand your point. In the clutch,
fine.
Horry would
okay,
hit shots.
I'll give you one more then. During a game, in fact, during a season, I'll say he's fine. But when it matters in big games, he has big moments. Eli Manning.
Eli in the postseason, Eli in the cold up in Green Bay, Eli in 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots. That's a good one. I like that one. Let's go Sacramento and say hi to Kevin here on VSiN Live. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Patrick, what's up? First, I remember when you guys were on a few years ago and Dustin didn't even know what a parlay was. Now he's
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
He's Jimmy the Greek all of a sudden. Look at him. He's not smiling. He's upset about that, but he has learned quickly. I'll say that. Good job, Kevin.
Dustin, 25 years ago, we were betting dime triple box reverses. Google it. Hey, with the Karl Anthony Towns trade, I got the receipt. I was disgusted as a Knicks fan. The Timberwolves, They didn't even have him on the court in the fourth quarter of crunch time in the playoffs last year because he was such a liability, a mental midget. That trade was terrible. Julius Randle wasn't on our roster in the playoffs last year. His just heart and, his hardness would have been, it's needed on the Knicks team. And more so, I'll take DiVincenzo in crunch time over Bridges for a wide open 3 7 days a week. So both of those trades to me were questionable.
Kevin, we haven't heard from Kevin. Used to call us all the time.
Yeah.
Haven't heard from him in a long time. Randall has been freaking
Too many
awesome
donks
for
are sitting
Minnesota.
around watching White
Can we at
Lotus.
least admit that? Like in the postseason.
No.
Again, I know they were bitching about how he's going to fit. That's the type of player he is. You have to figure out how to make him fit. If
Randall-
you can figure that out, he's a useful player.
And also, he's not making the money that Cat's making. Cat's contract's crazy. Minnesota don't want to pay that down the road. Randall across the board does a lot as a power forward. He can facilitate. You can run the offense through him. He can play off the ball and hit shots if you need him to. If you need him to bang down low, he's happy to do it. Randall was a useful player. And I absolutely agree with Kevin, by the way. Dante DiVincenzo over Mikal Bridges all day. Mikal Bridges.
Not even close.
That's going to go down as one of the all-time heists of all time. That guy is useless. I know he had a couple moments last night, but we wouldn't be in this position if he could just hit open looks in the fourth quarter in earlier games.
Well, in a big spot, you just mentioned DiVincenzo. I'd rather have Randall and DiVincenzo in the game than Cat. So I like the trade from Minnesota.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
it's
simple.
tough.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888, and then we'd rather have him for the guy they had then traded for in Bridges. 888-623-3646. Empty calories with Cat and more clutch than Brunson. You tell us. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports is almost here, and VSiN's got your inside track. Get expert picks, betting strategies, and everything you need for Derby Day. Find all of our Derby coverage on the VSiN Watch app. Remember, you can get everything, including the Derby betting guide, which is it's pretty fantastic. I got to give everybody credit that contributed to it, and you can get that and everything we offer for $19 through August 1st. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and use the promo code series. So if you're thinking about just chilling out on a Saturday, first Saturday in May, go get the guide. I think you're going to enjoy that. Look, we have Dustin Swedelson on, Patrick Meagher, Ryan Smith. Thank you. Running YouTube at VSiN Live. We have two super good and normal producers, Naya and Isaiah. And then we have one legitimately insane person named Jacob. Isaiah is a Knicks fan, but he's an idiot. Because we go to break and he's telling me how bad DiVincenzo is, how bad Randall is, and how great Cat is. Now, this is what we do for a job. We're trying to titillate, and we're saying Cat stinks. Now, understand, we know that he is a competent basketball player. We know that he is obviously a guy that's going to get paid the max. The point is, close your eyes, think of players. You want them on the court at the end of a game? I don't think you do. And Brunson, the opposite, would be 6'1", one of the more clutch guys you're ever going to see. Dustin, we were joking about this at the end of the program. I was very concerned because I felt horrible that I was going to let my friend down. When Brunson hit that three, I was like, I should never have doubted it. By the way, the Pistons were up like 8 with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, no. It was another fourth quarter comeback for the Knicks. It was done. You were booking a flight. I was ready to be like, hey, man, do you want me to help you find the best rate here? Because I knew you didn't want to do it. And that's the worst part about setting up travel plans is finding the right flight at the right time. And then I look up and Brunson stepping back. By the way, a caller said he pushed off. I watched that in slow motion. He didn't push off. His arm was underneath there, and he dropped back, and Thompson went flying. He didn't push off. But
is he supposed to tuck his arm behind his back?
Yeah.
Crossed him up.
But greater point, Bridges, you had to give up all those picks for him. 5 first-rounders, makes $23 million this year. DiVincenzo makes $11.5 million. Karl Anthony Towns is making $50 million this year, essentially. Julius Randle making $33 million. And you had to trade them to get him back. The point is, you had players that were comparable and didn't take up as much cap, and you actually may have gotten worse late in games because I trust those guys very little on the floor.
Isn't the reason Minnesota moved on? Because isn't he about to get paid? Or am I incorrect?
Okay, next year he makes $53 million. 2026-27, he makes $57 million, and 2027-28, when he's 32, he will make $61 million.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Isaiah. Enjoy it. Enjoy the experience the next 3 years, paying that guy close to $60 million. You people have lost your effing minds. Watch that game. I don't know what Hart makes, but 10 times out of 10, I'd rather have Hart in crunch time than Karl Anthony Towns, and it's actually not even close.
No.
By one thing, guys, I
Go
would
ahead.
never root for the Knicks. That is disgusting. It's vile, and I actually.
Who are you a fan of, Donkey Kong?
I'm a Raptors fan. All right.
Okay, shut off your mic. You're from America.
In
Get the hell
NBA
out of
history,
here.
Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry,
All right.
greatest players of all time, man.
So you're British all of a sudden. You're Canadian. Okay, please get
That is the most anti-American thing that's ever been said on these airwaves.
Yeah. Anyway, shout to Canada. I'm from Jersey, but I like dinosaurs, so I'm a raptor.
I love the color purple, not the book.
Too many donks are sitting around watching White Lotus.
Dummy.
Gross. Ugh.
Well, what's Hart making? Did you look it up?
Yeah, he's making about 20 mil, 18.1.
So is there a 20 to $30 million difference between Hart and Cat? Yeah, there is. I'd rather have Hart.
I would too. If you told me this roster, in fact, this roster went further last year without Julius Randle, but you know what it had? Josh Hart.
Yeah, Hart. All 30 teams, 29 other teams would be like, they would sprint to New York City to grab Josh Hart and carry him back on as a piggyback ride.
I think you can make a case with Josh Hart of guys to get a second, contract to make real money, not whatever they did when they entered the league. No one does more per dollar for your team than Josh Hart. I honestly believe that.
He's literally a victim of his size. He's
Yeah.
never going to get paid what he deserves because of his size, but he plays above his size. So it's kind of a conundrum for him. Let's go to Vancouver. Speaking of Canada, we love Canada. We just don't understand Isaiah's being from Jersey and liking Toronto so much. So I apologize, Reggie in Vancouver. I just want to clarify. I like Canada.
Yeah, it's all good, man. We're all entitled to our opinions. May I ask when you became a Raptors fan? Was it the Vince Carter era?
Yeah, Isaiah, tell us. When did you become a Raptor fan?
I became a Raptors fan when the Nets decided to move to Brooklyn and decided to invest in the worst big three on the planet. And I said, you know what? I don't need this headache anymore. I'm going to root for a team that no one in anywhere near me is going to root for. So I
Okay,
chose the
so about
Raptors.
07-ish, that's when he became a fan, Reggie.
A little bit later, but yeah, we'll go with that.
09-ish.
Okay, sounds good. Listen, I just want to clear something up. I called the other day. We were talking about sports and hockey and just it being like the most dynamic sports out of the big four. I asked you guys what sports did you play growing up? For whatever reason, I think you guys took that the wrong way. I wasn't trying to ridicule you for not being athletes or anything. I was just asking you guys a genuine question of what you guys played when you grew up, right? And then I want to get to Brunson Ewing thing, but I don't know if you guys want to answer that question or not. Or wait till I'm off air, but
Go for it.
He wants us to answer.
I just asked you. Yeah, about playing sports growing up. Like, what sports do you guys play?
Oh, well, no, I thought you meant what sports do we play currently? I'm 47. No. Growing up, everything. Football, basketball, baseball. Played hockey. Played everything.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Well, listen, just on the Ewan Brunson thing, I just, I get what you're saying. Like, he's a pretty explosive player, great to watch now, but to take him over Ewing at this point, like, Ewing led the Knicks to 13 straight playoffs, took them to the finals. I think they went to a Game 7 against the Olajuwon. To put him over Ewing at this point after just being there for 2 years, I just think that's a little bit much.
No, what that is, it's almost like that's how I set it up. It's like, this is what's great about sports talk, and this is what you have to be careful with. It's almost like you're projecting what Brunson is going to mean to the Knicks by the time he's done.
Yes.
And we're living in prisoners of the moment. But he's 100% right. Like, if we're just to measure Ewing's accomplishments as a Knick compared to Brunson got here 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, Brunson's 28 right now, so he joined the Knicks at what, 27, 26? Ewing joined the Knicks at 23, so he has a chance to carve out a massive career as a New York Knick. My point, I guess, would be, the entire time Patrick Ewing was a Knick, and again, I loved him. If I ever had dogs, I wanted to have 3 dogs, and I wanted to name them Ewing, Starks, and Oakley. Like, that was my team growing up. I had multiple Patrick Ewing posters on my wall. I only bought 33 jerseys as a kid, but you never
We know that information.
You never believed Patrick Ewing was going to actually get it done. You just never believed it was actually going to happen. I believe Jalen Brunson is going to win a title for the New York Knicks. He is going to will whatever bums are on that roster around him all the way to the finals. And then what will happen is it'll be an ugly series. And when it matters the most, he's going to say, give me the ball. And he won't blink in a big moment. He'll come through. I believe that. Whereas I do remember Patrick Ewing. I remember turning to my dad and crying when he missed that finger roll against the Pacers in the playoffs.
So, question about Ewing. He was a super boring player to watch. It's interesting you were obsessed with him. Like that, it was just so fundamental.
Well, he was their best player. So when you're a kid, you don't know any better. And he was obviously dominant defensively, but I loved when he would do the turnaround baseline jumper. That was my favorite with Ewing. And that should tell you everything you need to know on why Jalen Brunson is better than Patrick Ewing, because his go-to move was a turnaround baseline jumper.
888 Mad Dog 6. Yeah, he had that one move where his release point was very high, so he would just go straight up with his right hand. Yeah. Ugh. It was like watching paint dry. But I understand. You grow up, you get into weird players. I did the same in Detroit.
He looked like his joints needed WD-40 when he ran down the court.
Yeah, at 23, he was going on 73. 888-623-3646. So we've got a couple of things going. So we're going to come back with your calls. The clutch player, Brunson right now. You can even just use current day, who you'd take over him in the 4 majors. And then the empty calorie conversation about Cat. Of course, we're admitting this is a good basketball player. But do you want him out there in the final 2 minutes? It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, Stanley Cup playoffs are on Sirius XM coming up tonight at 8 East, 5 West, Game 6 of the Western Conference Quarters between Stars and Avs. Excuse me, that was yesterday's read. I can tell you this. We are getting Game 6 tonight, Jets Blues, and you can hear all the information on Sirius 211. Where'd that, before you fix that, big guy, I got to read it. Sirius
220.
211 and XM 220 in the car or on the Sirius XM app. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. Let's go back to your calls. We're talking Brunson, his heroics last night. Cat, are we too hard on him? We both agree. Right now, Minnesota's winning that trade. Let's go to Ray in Brooklyn here on VSiN Live. Hi, Ray.
Gentlemen, good to talk to you guys this evening.
You too.
Listen, I appreciate it. I kind of just checked in not too long ago, and I'm hearing some Patrick Ewing slander that I don't think is tongue in cheek. And I was a kid like one of you guys, and I was hurt by the missed finger roll. But let's not forget the number of big shots the guy made. He had the putback dunk to send us to the finals. He had the finger roll. He had the runner in the lane about 2 games earlier to keep that series alive. He went to 2 NBA finals. He didn't get a chance to play in the second one against Tim Duncan and David Robinson, but he got us to 2 NBA finals, man. The guy is pretty big time, and a lot of people just don't appreciate him. And of course, I know you guys are making a comparison with Jalen Brunson, and I think it's too soon for Brunson, but don't get me wrong. Brunson is the biggest killer on the planet. To me, him and Judge are the kings of New York. Like, I love, Jalen Brunson, man. This is a total leader, professionalism, the antithesis of his, the guy that he was being held back by in Luka Doncic. And I'm sorry to take a shot at Luka Magic, or in this case, Luka Tragic, because he always, he made it to the finals last year. He showed he didn't belong there when he got there. He didn't allow Brunson to grow. He didn't allow Porzingis to grow. Jalen Brunson, my captain, makes everybody that he plays with better. Josh Hart, who was Josh Hart before Jalen Brunson? Who was Cat was taking a step back with in Minnesota like Randall did, even though Randall's coming up clutch in the postseason. In the regular season, he was a shell of the guy that made 2 NBA all NBA teams with the Knicks. So, at the same time, I'm saying hold it back a little bit when it comes to Patrick Ewing, but I'm all for, loving and appreciating Jalen Brunson.
Thank you. Bro, listen, Ewing's a top 50 player of all time. There isn't slander.
I love him.
Found him boring. That's
yeah,
all.
no, look, I love him, but you mentioned the 2 NBA finals. Why did the Knicks go to those NBA finals? In 1993-94, Michael Jordan was not playing basketball. What about 98-99? Michael Jordan was also not playing basketball. You never really believed the Knicks would figure it out when it mattered. With Jalen Brunson, I do believe he will get to a point where he will figure it out when it matters and win them a title.
Was the second Knicks championship against the Spurs, was that short strike? That was the shortened season because of the strike, correct?
Yes, it was. 98-99 was the shortened season, yes.
Let's go to Ali in Vegas. Ali, hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Brunson is everything I do not like about LeBron James. If LeBron James had half the dog in him that Brunson has late game, he would be for sure right there with Jordan. But he defers way too much with all that size and all the ability he has. Brunson brings it every night. Now, you know what? If the Lakers were smart, they want to do a reset, I will call the Washington Wizards right now, offer them Luka Doncic and 3 or 4 other players, and that next year first round draft pick to get Cooper Flag in LA to reset their thing. Because Luka Doncic, as great as he is offensively, he's a liability defensively, and you cannot win with Luka. That's why they got him out of Dallas, because they saw it. If he's breaking down now at 26, whatever he is, imagine when he's 31, 32. He's not going to be able to fulfill that contract and bring the Lakers a championship.
Well, the one thing about trading, I don't think it's going to happen. But if the Lakers were open to trading Luka to the Wizards still just have a 15% chance to get the number 1 overall pick, maybe a 13.5%, 14%. That is not guaranteed. This is not football. It's a ping pong situation where to prevent tanking, even if you have the worst record in basketball, you only have a percentage.
That call was going so well right up until that trade proposal. It was going so – I agreed with every point he was making, and then we got there. By the way, I don't know if you saw this making the rounds on social media. Someone posted video highlights of Luka Doncic his first couple years in the season. Oh, man. That looks like the before picture of a Nutrisystem ad, or an after picture of a Nutrisystem ad. But I had not realized how bad it got until I compared those bodies.
I'm not entertaining the Lucas slander as a basketball player. I will entertain the Lucas slander as a fat ass right now.
No, he must have been
Sorry.
eating Texas barbecue every meal in Dallas. That's the only way I can explain it.
Well, but the problem is, we talked about it last night. He got to LA and he was skinnier than he was last night. And then he got the flu and he got bigger. And I just don't see how that's even remotely possible. But no, he's a transcendent basketball player. You wouldn't trade him for anybody except
Wemby. Yeah, 25, 26, Wemby. I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, that's it. So, again, can't entertain the weird stuff about Luka. Can entertain the fact that the professionalism does come into question. He was out of shape.
Yep.
He was definitely out of shape. And I saw those before and after pictures. It's not a good look for Luka. Let's be fair. Express Bets, Jeremy Plonk talking Kentucky Derby. Next here, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, as we welcome you back. You can get the Kentucky Derby betting guide and everything we offer right now over at vsin.com/subscribe. $19 takes you through August 1st. Use the promo code SIRIUS. Now, over at VSiN, we've got a great relationship with First Bet, Express Bet, which is, it's actually what I'm using now, because what I like about it, handicapping tools, but you can also place your bets through Express Bet. So I encourage you to do so. And joining us to discuss the Kentucky Derby, First Bet, Express Bet, horse racing handicapper Jeremy Plonk at Horse Player Now, Jeremy, we say hi. 151st running tomorrow. The Kentucky Oaks today. Let's start with the two horses that scratched. I thought Rodriguez was interesting just because of the inside speed. He scratched. And then Grande scratches today. Anything on those two, and we'll talk about the replacement.
Well, it's a tough break for the Wood Memorial, the race out of New York, the big prep race in New York City, because those were the 1-2 finishers out of that race. And it's kind of been snake bitten. The race from New York hasn't produced a Derby winner since 2003. So it's been a couple decades now since Funny Side famously came through that race and won the Kentucky Derby, the popular New York bred. So, the New York interest is certainly, there are plenty of horsemen from New York and horses who have competed on those circuits as 2-year-olds. But that's kind of, one of the two Bafferts come out, and Todd Pletcher's only horse comes out. So it's the first time in like 20 years Todd Pletcher has not had a starter in the Kentucky Derby now, because Grande scratched, and that took Pletcher out of the Kentucky Derby. And really, when you think about American racing, there are like 4 really, really prominent barns: Bob Baffert, Brad Cox, Todd Pletcher, and Chad Brown. And between those 4 super trainers, as we like to call them, they've got exactly 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby this year. Baffert's down to 1, Cox is down to 1, and neither one are going to go off in single-digit odds. So all the power, like if you took all the great coaches in the transfer portal in college football and gave them all the great rosters, none of them made the playoff. That's just kind of the way it feels. And so this is a Derby maybe for the small to the medium guys, and that's always a good thing, And so you've got 2 horses from California, not from Baffert's barn, who are going to be among the favorites. Baeza, who got into the race because of the scratches. He was on the alternate list. We call it also eligibles in horse racing. And then the other horse, from Southern California is going to be the favorite, Journalism, but trained by Michael McCarthy. Not a household name, but certainly an excellent trainer. But like you say, one of these mid-major guys, he's going to go from a team that he takes to the Sweet 16 to a Final Four school here very soon. Michael McCarthy, if he wins the Kentucky Derby, will be a hot name in the industry, and we'll be getting a lot more good horses.
How about Baeza, the horse that's in for Rodriguez, Jeremy? I know lightly raced, but I do believe went toe-to-toe with Journalism earlier in the year. What can we expect from the 21 horse?
He's got a legitimate chance, but I'll tell you, he was inexperienced. And the reason he was on the alternate list is because he had only ever run in one stakes race, and that was the Santa Anita Derby, where he finished second. So he didn't accrue a lot of the qualifying points that go into making the Kentucky Derby. You have to acquire points along the Triple Crown Trail in the prep races. He had only run in one of those because it took him a few races to get his first victory. He only ran in that one stakes race in the Santa Anita Derby, and he did everything wrong in that race. I mean, he was gawky. He was looking at the grandstand. He was cocking his head to the side. He was fighting the rider, and yet still ran a really good second. He's like that gangly kid, that you say if he grows into his body, he's going to be a great varsity player someday. He's, if he makes a quick advancement and improvement off that last race, he's got a real chance, because he only got beat, a little less than 2 lengths by Journalism in that race in the Santa Anita Derby. Now, he had a very good trip. The problems he had in that race were kind of self-imposed wounds, whereas Journalism was they were riding the race against him. A couple of the Bob Baffert horses in that race, they strategized. They basically sent one out to defend Journalism the whole way around the track and kind of keep him hemmed in and allow the other one to kind of run free in Citizen Bull. And yet Journalism still got out of that trouble, got out to the outside, and when he needed it, in the last 1/8 of a mile, he ran one of the fast final 1/8 of a mile, which is 220 yards. When you think about it, he needed a great 220 yards at the end of the Santa Anita Derby, and he delivered one of the fastest final 1/8 of a miles of any horses in the preps, and then won, fairly comfortably in the end. It wasn't a photo finish. So it's going to take a big move forward for Baeza to beat Journalism, even though the margin says it's closer than that, because he's got to now fix those problems that he had, in the race, the mental things. And he's got to do it in front of 150,000 people, all screaming, going crazy. He's got an outside post draw, which is like, people don't think about this, but when you're in the far outside of the starting gate, you're very close to the grandstand and the crowd. So the noise, the people yelling, everything there, the visuals, he's going to see those people the whole first quarter mile of the race. And if he's gawking and looking around like he did at Santa Anita, That's not necessarily what you want. So Baeza's got to really be focused early in the race. You almost prefer he be in the middle of the pack somewhere. It's horses to his inside, horses to his outside, and it just feels like a natural herd to him to run in. So it's going to be interesting from the outside, but he is extremely talented. The field's better that he's in it. Not at the loss of Rodriguez, who was a nice horse as well, but it's good to have Baeza in this race. But I would like him a lot more in the Preakness next time, a little bit more education, a little bit more seasoning, and a smaller field size at Pimlico, and less hullabaloo than they have at the Kentucky Derby. I think he's a really interesting Preakness horse, and if he runs top 5 in the Kentucky Derby, he'll show how talented he is because it's there. The raw ability's there.
We're talking the Derby with our go-to guy, Jeremy Plonk, Express Bet. Hey, by the way, when you said 4 major barns, we just got a call from Steve Asmussen. He'd like,
yeah, no, you're right. That's a well,
he hasn't won a Derby. Though he hasn't won a Derby.
That's right. Steve Asmussen's won more races than anybody in the history of horse racing. I want to say off the top of my head, it's in the 14 or 15,000 range. That's a lot of wins, to win over the course of his career. But he's 0 for 26 in the Kentucky Derby. He's never won the biggest race. He has won the Preakness a couple times. He's won the Belmont, but he hasn't won a Kentucky Derby. And, I worked with Steve back when we were both kind of younger pups in the early 90s at Remington Park in Oklahoma City. And he was up and coming at that time, and I was new to the industry at that time. And you could even tell back then that he had a drive. This was one of the hardest working guys you've ever seen. He's got a pickup truck that at one point was rumored to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000 miles on it. He has horses all over the country. He drives everywhere from Oklahoma City to Louisiana to Texas. He's got a home in Fort Worth and to Kentucky, and he just drives everywhere, and he's an incredibly hardworking guy. Very intense. He's tough on his help, but he is an outstanding Hall of Fame trainer. He's got a Kentucky Derby with his name on it. I don't know about this year. I mean, Tiz Tactic and Publisher are the 2 horses for trainer Steve Asmussen, but if they win, it'll be a good day in the Asmussen home. You can bet that.
Let me just follow up there, big guy, because Jeremy, you were talking about Baeza in the Santa Anita kind of being precocious and looking around. That's what I love about the Kentucky Derby, the uniqueness of it. 150,000. 20 horses. Now this year, 19 horses. You're never going to see a field size like that again.
No.
These horses.
No.
The crashing into one another when they come out the gate. I heard somebody explain it. You can correct me. These horses as 3-year-olds are like, seniors in high school, still kind of figuring themselves out.
Right.
So everything that kind of the confluence of everything. It's like it takes a special horse to win a race like this. It's so unique.
It is, and at times you end up with a one-hit wonder who wins this race, right? Because they were special on that day, and everything came together for them in a one-shot deal. And that's, to me, the most unique aspect of the Kentucky Derby, more so than anything else in all of sports. It's restricted to horses who are just 3 years old, and it's always run on the first Saturday in May. So think about your life, your dog's life, your horse's life. You are 3 years old on the first Saturday in May for exactly one day. That's it, right? It's not like I made the major leagues after 5 years in the minors. It's not like I got to the World Series the 3rd time and I won it my 4th time. There are no do-overs, and the calendar does not move. It doesn't forgive. Outside of the COVID year in 2020, when they moved it to Labor Day weekend, it is the first Saturday in May of your 3-year-old year. You're not able to run on it at 4 years old, at 5 years old. So these horses have one single day to make history, and that's why sometimes you get a crazy one-hit wonder result. But the ones who are prepared beautifully up to the race and run their race, and when the greats run in the Derby and they deliver, it's something to see. When you saw American Pharoah, when you saw California Chrome, some of these horses of the last decade or so, Smarty Jones, who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Smarty Jones back in 2004, there was just a tremendous downpour and rainstorm. They were, belly flopping in the infield with all the craziness going on there. There was a delay to the race, and then he just came out in the slop and continued to be undefeated, went to the Preakness, won that race by the largest margin in the history of the Preakness. Like, when you see the special horses, you know it, and maybe we'll get that. And if we get that, I think it will probably come from journalism. But there's one other horse who maybe could hit that special note, and it's the horse from Japan, Luxor Cafe. I think he's really something to consider in this year's Kentucky Derby. We mentioned American Pharoah, the Triple Crown winner from 2015. He's an offspring of American Pharoah. So he's from Japan. He's raced exclusively in Japan, but he's got a pure Kentucky pedigree. He's a half brother to a filly in the United States who made $2.6 million on the turf for trainer Chad Brown, Regal Glory. He's just got a complete American and Kentucky pedigree, even though he's bred and raced in Japan. So I think Luxor Cafe is very, very interesting. And if it's not journalism in the Kentucky Derby, this might be Japan's year. They knocked on the door. Last year, they missed by 2 noses. And, we just talked about the big major 4 trainers. We'll call Asmussen in there when we're talking Derby, maybe not so much. But of those major trainers not having a big say in this year's Kentucky Derby, that would seem to leave the door tipped open a little bit to Japan, right? If there is a year when somebody's going to win from international, it might be a year when Baffert doesn't have a heavy, Pletcher doesn't have a heavy, and that sort of thing like that. So this could be an interesting Derby at the top. I don't think it's a great Derby like 1 through 20, 1 through 19 now. But I think at the top, it's got a couple potentially special horses.
And I'll follow up, Big Guy, because I want to just say something about journalism. He was running in field sizes of maybe 5 or 6 horses out here at Santa Anita.
Yeah.
He's going to have, 18 other horses with him. He's obviously the class of the field, open 3-1. I think he's sitting 3.5-1, deservedly so. Some believe it's a potential Triple Crown type of horse.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. If I could poke some holes in him, small fields, is he bred to go the distance? Are these questions that are legitimate, or is he obviously the favorite?
No, he's obviously the favorite. He's got the pedigree. There's no question he's got the pedigree. He's by Curlin. There's plenty of pedigree there. Curlin, one of the greats of the last 25 years. Preakness winner, just missed in the Derby. He was very lightly raced going into the Derby, and he was in a great year in 2007 when the sire Curlin ran 3rd in the Derby. No, there's plenty of pedigree there. His late pace figures, which is how fast you run at the end of the race. Most horses are going full tilt from the start, and then they decelerate as the race goes on. You're strongest at the beginning. And while he still decelerates at the end like most racehorses do, it's much less deceleration than others. His late pace figures are far and away the best in this field. So he has what it takes. Does he have the ability to take on all those rivals after running in a lot of shorter fields? That will be the question. If he gets beat, it will be because he got into trouble. He got into traffic, and just like any of us, when you're trying to get home on time or get out to the movies on time, traffic is your worst nightmare sometimes. And if that's the case, then he'll get beat. And that's why it's a gamble, right? And that's why if somebody says, I don't want to take 3.5-1 in a 19-horse field, you're going to get no argument from me in that respect, if you're gambling on the win end. But they have exotic wagers like Exactus, Tries, Supers, putting horses together that run first and second, third, fourth. I think that's where you kind of utilize a horse like this in the Derby, because the math really works for you too. I mean, think about this. The top 4 combinations in the Kentucky Derby, when we have 19 horses, there's 93,000 different ways it can turn out. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. There's literally 93,000 different ways it can come for the superfecta. So even if you like the favorite and you like journalism, there are still enough ways for people to lose with the favorite winning to pay you handsomely. And that's how this game is played in parimutuel wagering. The losing tickets pay the winning tickets, right? So you want a situation where there can be a lot of losing tickets. And in a 19-horse field, there are a lot of different ways to kind of not cash. And that's what's going to pay you if you're right. You only got to be right once. That's the thing. And, you could still get... Journalism is 3-1, 3.5-1 is the favorite. But in a trifecta or a superfecta, it's not an exaggeration. You can make 1,000 to 1 off this horse in a trifecta, and you can make 10,000 to 1 off this horse in a superfecta. You're going to need other horses to go with them, obviously, but it's not a stretch. I mean, I know for a fact in 2013, I liked the horse named Orb, who was the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. I was convinced he would run well. I found one other horse that I loved to run third. I bet him all in the middle to run second. So it was Orb, overall over a horse named Revolutionary. Trifecta came back around $1,500 for $1 with the favorite winning. So you turned a favorite into 1,500 to 1, and you didn't even know who was going to run second. You just took all of them to run second. But the gamble was you found the right horse to run third. So crafting your tickets and strategizing and gambling on horse racing can still find ways to hit, bet a little to make a lot. That ticket, with I can't remember how many horses were in the field that year. If there were 20, would have been an $18 ticket. So you turn an $18 ticket into $1,500. And so there are ways to craft and build, even if you like the favorite. So don't just go fishing for the biggest 30 to 1 shot you can find if you like horses that are shorter prices. Then just play the exotics.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I mean, it's essentially, we're speaking to an audience that likes to build those parlays, those same game parlays that are promoted everywhere. Right. In horse racing, it's not just about picking the winner. It's about picking the other horses that are capable of winning. They don't actually have to finish the job. Right. They just have to get there. So it's a little unique in building that ticket. So tell me, if we're going to narrow this down, if we're going to build up our tickets, how many of the 19 horses in the field do you believe are actually capable of contending and winning the race?
3.
Okay.
Luxor,
I think
journalism, and who else?
And sovereignty.
Yeah.
I think journalism, sovereignty are the 2 best American horses. I think they stand out. And then Luxor Cafe from Japan. So I think there's only 3 that kind of fit that category that can win the Derby. Anybody beyond that 3 would be a major surprise to me.
Sovereignty would be my pick at the price. Tell me why you like the horse.
He's got an excellent pedigree. He finishes races strongly. Again, we're talking about a 1.25 miles, and you talked about all the differences of the Kentucky Derby and how it's unique. The 1.25 miles distance is the longest race these horses have ever run. And so they never get tested this far until they get to the Derby. So you're looking for horses who can finish their races strong. That doesn't mean that they necessarily start last and end up first and are big come-from-behind styles. Sovereignty will come from farther back in the pack than journalism, for instance. I could see Sovereignty being 16th of 19 early in the race. And for journalism, I see him probably in the top 8, going down the backstretch. So he'll come from a different spot, but he finishes his race with strength. He has pedigree to run long, which matters in horse racing. It's kind of, like auto racing. What's under the hood, And so if you've got the right car, these horses that are bred well have the right, parts and to go distances. And some horses are bred to run shorter distances and their physical makeup. He's got the right physical makeup for it. He's got a great trainer in Bill Mott, a Hall of Famer. Sovereignty comes out of the Florida Derby, which has been a very productive race towards the Triple Crown in the past. And Sovereignty won at Churchill Downs as a 2-year-old last year, very impressively, in a race called the Street Scent Stakes. So he can run over the racetrack there. He's been there before. I think he's a serious, major contender in this spot.
How about the Brad Cox horse, Final Gambit? I know it's a name that's been thrown around. What are your expectations for that horse? I believe about 15 to 1 coming out of gate 3.
Yeah, he was 30 to 1 in the morning line, but there's about 4.5 million bet in the win pool, and he's already down to 15. So he's taken some steam, and I like the horse. He was one that I thought as a price runner, like I'm trying to find who could run second or third now or fourth, for that superfecta we're talking about. He is a big late running horse who comes home faster than any of the American horses, but he hasn't done it on a dirt track. He's done it on a synthetic track. So it's kind of like AstroTurf versus, or think about your tennis players. Some players are great on clay, some are great on grass, and some play the hard court. So there are different racing surfaces, and the Kentucky Derby's on dirt. There's grass racing, turf, and then there's some tracks that run on a synthetic surface, kind of made out of wax and fibers and things like that. And they call it all weather. It's in areas where the weather's a little rough, and it makes it a little easier to maintain and not freeze up. And so Turfway Park has one of those synthetic surfaces in northern Kentucky, and that's where Final Gambit raced last. So he raced over a synthetic surface. He's never raced on the dirt before. The difference between dirt racing and some of those others is dirt racing is kind of like sand. It's more sand than dirt. Like if you went in your backyard, it's going to be a lot more like the beach than the dirt in your backyard. So it's abrasive, and you think about the sand. If somebody threw a hunk of sand in your face, it would be scratchy and abrasive. That's what the horses get on the kickback in the dirt. So if you've run on a synthetic track that's like wax coated, the stuff that hits you in the face isn't nearly as abrasive. So you're willing to run through it. Horses who run on a dirt track like the Kentucky Derby, when they get hit with that abrasive sandy dirt for the first time, they may not want to run through it. And so they're going to just kind of idle along instead of accelerate through a race. That's what you don't know about Final Gambit. But some horses handle it and some don't. If he handles it, he's going to be finishing as fast or faster than anyone, but he is going to be coming from dead ass last. I mean, he will be last. I'll be shocked if he's not 19th as they turn onto the backstretch. So, but I think he's got a chance. The horses who run towards the front of the pack in this year's Derby don't look like they can run that far. This looks like what we call cheap speed as handicappers. They're going to go out there. Somebody's got to set the pace, but they don't look like the kind of horses who could go all the way and win it. When you think about American Pharoah was pretty close up, but Justified pretty much went right to the lead. Authentic. Some Derby winners have just dominated towards the front end. None of the horses who have front end speed in this race seem to be the major contenders to win it. So I think they're all going to collapse, and your late runners are going to have the say of this race.
Well, that's why I like Rodriguez, Authentic son.
Mm-hmm.
If he got out cleanly, who knows? One last question for you, Jeremy. You just mentioned the shape of the race. Down that final turn, do you expect journalism to be rating? Where do you expect them to be?
By the time they hit the far turn, I would say he'll be top 3. You know, I think he'll be 7th or 8th turn. Yeah, I think going into the first turn, he'll be 7th, 8th, something like that. Steadily advance and get into the contention and down the backstretch. Still, as they get to the far turn, they still have like 3/8 of a mile left to run. So that's like 660 yards. When they hit the far turn and midway on the turn, they still got about 6 football fields to go. You know, so there's a decent amount of ground there still to run. If he's up in the top 3 by that point, he's going to be an awful tough out. They're going to have a hard time keeping him off of him.
I know you mentioned this.
Could he be great? Just to follow up, could journalism be a great horse?
Yes, he cost a ton when he was sold. He's meant to be a great horse. The funny thing about him is, you know, he didn't go to one of the super trainers, but this horse cost $825,000 when he was sold as a yearling. So he was 1 year old and sold for $825,000. He's meant to be a good one. Like I said, he's by one of the great horses of the last 20, 25 years in curling. He has that ability, right? I mean, he's run 4 times in races around 2 turns, like distance races. He started out once in a sprint and got beat, but he ran well. Every time they've run him around 2 turns, he's won handily, and he seems to be getting better. He could be a really, really good horse. Absolutely. Great. You've got to put him together, right? You know, talk to me after the Preakness. If he gets the first 2, then we can get into that conversation.
Yeah, Jeremy, for our audience building a ticket, right, the draw is so important here depending on how they get out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Are there certain numbers that people should be avoiding, like even if you like the horse but you don't like the draw they got, and other horses maybe that got upgraded for you because of the draw they got?
Not that I don't think there's any like clear-cut numbers like there used to be, because until 2020, the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby had 14 stalls in it. Then they would bring what they called an auxiliary gate outside of that had 6 more stalls. And that made it much more tighter on the racetrack. So there was less room left to right as you're looking like down the lane. The horses were closer to the outside and closer to the inside because you needed that extra gap for the tires for the 2 gates. You know, both gates had tires on each side of it to move in and out and off the racetrack. So 14 and 15 were like 10 feet apart from each other, you know, because one was ending the one gate and the other was starting the outside gate. And then the horses on the inside were much closer to the inside rail than they are now because the whole thing was wider. So since they condensed the gate in 2020 into one continuous 20 stall starting gate, which they got from the folks in Australia, which had a 20 horse gate, it has made the racing a lot safer at the start. But it's a lot cleaner too. So I don't think the post positions are as big a deal just as far as like, this is a terrible post. But like when you talk the individual horses, you know, that sort of thing, like Baeza being on the far outside and having to deal with the grandstand, things like that. If you're next to a horse who has a lot of trouble coming out of the starting gate, we saw Sandman earlier this year just kind of rear and take a left-hand turn coming out of the starting gate. Maybe you don't want to be next to that horse, you know, because if they're going to repeat bad behavior, you're going to be in a bad neighborhood when the starting gate breaks. So, those are the kind of things, but that's kind of more in depth. I don't think there's any kind of just general rule. I can say this: down on the rail is not good. It's not good for Citizen Bull because you think about the inside. Everybody wants to get to the inside because it's the shortest way around, right? Think track and field. Lane 1 is the place you got to be, right? And so everybody's trying to get down there. So if you're Citizen Bull, you start out running straight, and there are 18 horses next to you, all wanting to come left. So it's going to get tight down there, and there's nowhere for you to go because there's a wooden rail right there. So you either have to go really fast and avoid all those other horses coming down, or get yourself just shuffled around like, popcorn in a popper, and hopefully you kind of get out of there clean after the first half mile. Then the field will start to spread out a little bit, and you have, a little bit more freedom to run. But that first quarter mile, half mile of the Kentucky Derby is kind of like a rodeo. And for the horses way down on the inside, they really don't have much choice. They just have to go barreling out to the lead. So I would assume that Citizen Bull is going to lead the Kentucky Derby onto the backstretch. That's the Bob Baffert horse who is left. And of course, this is Baffert's first Derby in 3 years since being banned. But I can't see Citizen Bull lasting the mile and a quarter. He just doesn't have the pedigree or the running style to see out the entire trip. I think he may lead to the top of the stretch, but I don't think he can hold on here.
Okay, you brought him up. I promise I'm not trying to get you in trouble. For my mom turning on the Kentucky Derby, Baffert's recognizable. He just is. He's good for the sport in that regard. But we can leave the other stuff to the side. Do you think Churchill Downs wants him there?
Yeah, they let him back.
Right, but they suspended him, and it was quite punitive, and now he's back. I just wonder where he stands within the sport right now.
It's mixed. At the Kentucky Derby post draw, which was last Saturday, where they determined where everybody's going to start from. It's a random pool of numbers. It's not anything scientific. But at the post position draw, when his face came up on the Jumbotron, which is his first time back, really, in the main stream of Churchill Downs in 3 years, he got booed. Mm-hmm. So there is a faction of people who are not happy he's back. Me personally, I mean, I'll take off my hat. I'll say it. I don't want him around. It's like the steroid era guys, and that sort of thing like that. If you were a Pirates fan, you were behind Barry Bonds. But anybody a fan of the other 26 teams in Major League Baseball, or however many there were back in the 90s, didn't want Bonds back, right? And so when you kind of, look, Baffert had the medication infraction with Medina Spirit in the 2021 Kentucky Derby when he won it. And that's what ultimately got him suspended by Churchill Downs. But one of the things people don't talk about was the year before in the Kentucky Oaks, he also had a horse test positive named Gamine, who had finished fourth. So it wasn't as ballyhooed in the press because A, it was the Oaks and not the Derby, and B, she didn't win. So she wasn't being disqualified from a win. It was just something that kind of made the headlines in the racing publications, But when you talk about Churchill Downs, now their two biggest races, which they've never had a medication infraction, I think Dancer's Image or whatever it was, like in the 1950s or something like that, since it happened. So nobody living in a power position in Kentucky racing had ever had to disqualify a horse, and they had 2 years in a row from the same trainer. So I think, were they punitive? Yeah, but I think they kind of got pushed. It wasn't once, it was twice. And people don't like to talk about it, or people don't know that it was twice, that they think it was just this one thing. And so if Bob says, this medication got in, it was contamination from a groom or whatever, maybe one time the general public can say, okay, I can see how that would happen. And also a court could see how that could happen, right? Because we're all this beyond a reasonable doubt. When you get to court, it's different, right? Churchill Downs can say, you're off our property, you're banned for whatever. But now if you're going to go to court over this, now you get beyond the reasonable doubt. And you're getting into a different, or even, a presumption of doubt. So you're in a different legal discourse than you are just making a rule, And so I think they suspended him as long as they could without getting into a major legal brouhaha. And then they said, come on back, everything's okay. And I think that's where we're at in the game. And that's, so if you're a fan of Baffert and you thought he was done wrong, you're happy to see him back. If you're not a fan, or you just think that, look, it walked like a duck, it was a duck, then you're not happy to see him back, And so, that's where I stand with it. And I've never hidden that fact.
Yeah, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Is that the Bob Baffert end on that?
And by the way, Dustin and I are so impressionable. We'll admit it. We, from Mad
Love
Dog
him.
Sports Radio for years, did Kentucky Derby shows, and he's like the one that would Pletcher would come
Always,
on,
yes.
Mott would come on, but Baffert was always receptive. Now, detractors would say he's a great self-promoter.
Right. Well, and he's fabulous with the media. And that's what, I started covering the Kentucky Derby first when I was a college student in 93. But then I first came back as, a professional working in the media in 97. And that was Bob's first year winning it with Silver Charm. So I kind of came up right when he came up. His first Derby was 96. He just missed it. I wasn't there for that Derby when he ran second. But his first Derby through, I've been through like the exact arc of his career. And when he first started out, everybody hated him. I mean, hated him. He was the slick guy who showed up late to the barn. The other trainers, like the Kentucky hard boots and the guys in the cowboy hats and stuff, were like, this is a city slicker. This isn't one of us. And he ran his mouth and he talked about other people's horses back then. And as media people, we loved that. We ate that up because everybody else was kind and all shucks and talked only about their horse. He'd tell you that this other horse doesn't have any chance to beat his. So there was a little boxer in there and that kind of feeling like that. So it was great, but it kind of built a monster over the course of many years, as much it does. Have you ever seen the 30 for 30 on Brian Bosworth? It's kind of the Bob Baffert thing, just not with an 18-year-old kid, but, a now 72-year-old man.
He did have Arrowgate, and Arrowgate is my favorite horse of all time.
He's had some of the great horses. I mean, absolutely great horses.
The horse he ran in the UAE, Arrowgate, he fell out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's like one of the more inspiring races. Dustin, you have one more question for Jeremy?
Well, the weather, Jeremy, I think it's going to impact things. It sounds like there's going to be some rain in the forecast for tomorrow. Does that change any horses you're looking at and putting into some of your plays?
The only 3 horses in the race who have won on like a sloppy or muddy racetrack are all big long shots. Like if you box those 3 horses, you're getting like a $20,000 trifecta if those 3 come in. So they seem to be, out of the mix. But that would be Neo Equus, the 2, has won on a sloppy track. American Promise, the 5, has won on a sloppy track. And I'm trying to find who was the other one. Let me glance through here real quick and see if they're still showing up here. There were 3, and they were all long shot types.
It did get sloppy today for the Oaks.
Yes, it was sloppy at the end of the day today. They got a huge downpour in the middle of the card. I think we're okay tomorrow after the morning, they say, that we're not going to get something later in the day. But, I can't even find who the 3rd horse was that has won.
Long shot.
Yeah, it was another long shot. So, no, I wouldn't really move anybody up or down based on the weather here. And when it's rained at the Kentucky Derby, I talked about that one where Orb won as the favorite in 2013. That was one of the worst weather derbies you'd ever seen. And the favorite delivered. But Mind That Bird, big long shot on another one in 2009 at 50-1. That was on a terrible weather day. So on a bad weather day, you could get something crazy, something expected. It doesn't really. I don't make any correlation between bad track condition and the chaoticness of the Derby.
Justify, I believe 5-2 favorite won on a sloppy track as well. Last time.
I know at Pimlico it was a sloppy track. That was the muddiest situation I've ever been in my life.
People said they were drowning in mud. It was like a mudslide.
We were in the infield. I did my Horse Player Now company. We did fan education in the infield at the Preakness for about 10 years. So we had a tent in the infield. It was so bad and so muddy, you could not leave the tent to go to the porta potties or the John all day because you weren't getting back. The mud was so bad outside of the tent. So you were just holding it all day and just praying that you got through the day there. 2018 Preakness was a rough go. And then when the race finally rolls around, the fog drops in and you can't see a damn thing. So you stood in the mud all day and then you couldn't see a single horse.
And then out of the fog comes Justify onto the Triple Crown. Jeremy Plunk, thank you. We kept you for a long time. It's worth it. The Derby, of course, First Bet, Express Bet. If you're betting the Derby tomorrow, I use it. Go to Express Bet. It's free to download. It's easy to bet. At Horse Player Now on Twitter. Jeremy Plunk. Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you.
All right. Hope you had fun and good luck, everybody, tomorrow.
Yeah, that was awesome. We'll do it again before the Preakness. We did a long time with that, but I'm obsessed with the horse racing, big guy. You know that. So anytime I get to talk to somebody like Jeremy, it's awesome for me.
If you're going to do it, this is when you do it. It's the biggest race of the year. It's the, I guess it's only comparable to NASCAR, where their biggest event of the year is is this. It's not the end of the season; it's the start of the run for the Triple Crown.
Let's do that. I'll come back and I want to talk about the Derby because I had an experience at the Derby and just kind of set up what the race means. If you are looking to bet it, maybe expound on a few things that Jeremy said. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, it is VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Remember, the Kentucky Derby betting guide is available over at VSiN. You can pick it up right now. $19. You'll get everything, including the Derby guide, but our picks, everything, through August 1st. Just go to vsin.com/subscribe. Use the promo code SIRIUS. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. Jeremy Plonk with a great spot on the Derby. had one opportunity to go. It was a weird year. It was the year that Rich Strike won. And Rich Strike was, what was it, 60, 80 to 1, somewhere in there, the second longest shot in the history of the Kentucky Derby. And this will be the 151st. I think he went off at 80 to 1. Maybe it was
91 to 1. No, that was a Donna Rail in 1913. I'll get it.
Okay, then it is he went
80 to 1.
Yeah, 80 to 1. So Rich Strike, 80 to 1. And Rich Strike was a late ad. So kind of like Baeza, who everybody loves this year. If Baeza was going to get into the field, I know a lot of really good bettors are using Baeza on the exotics. I know people that think Baeza can win the race. Do what you will with that. But I was there 1 year for it. I would say when it comes to just like bucket list events, first off, we've always talked about how much going to the track feels like you're walking back into 1940. It's just a different experience. In a new age, everybody's on their cell phones. Everything's done electronically. It still feels, almost like the service industry. Everybody's dressed up. Everybody takes it serious. Everybody's respectful. It is a party. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. Churchill Downs was a lot prettier than I thought it was going to be, much more austere and beautiful. And it's just, it really is an old school vibe. The Kentucky Derby is amazing because I think Jeremy laid it out well. What's important to understand about these horses, and somebody explained it to us years ago on the program, because I never really quite understood. Okay, so it's a 3-year-old horse. What does that mean in relation to where they are athletically? And it's basically like your best seniors in high schools, those athletes, because once they get to 4, once they get to 5, they mature mentally, they get much more alert, or they accentuate, they get much more crazy, whatever it is. But most of the time they'll mature as they get older. Like if you had the best 4-year-old in the world, most likely that is going to be your favorite as opposed to the best 3-year-old, because as they get older, they're going to get better. Now, journalism this year, the people that I respect in the business, they say he is legitimately, he's a Curlin son. Curlin is one of the greats. They say he's legitimately a Triple Crown contender. Remember, the Triple Crown, we had gone 38 years without winning a Triple Crown. And then American Pharoah won the Triple Crown, I think in 16, maybe 15. And then a couple of years later, 16, and then in 18, Justify won the Triple Crown. So we had gone from, I believe it was 78 to 6. So we had gone 38 years. Smarty Jones, and you can go on and on with the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown, of course, the Derby and the Preakness having been won. I went to a Smarty party in 2004 in Charleston. We were all about Smarty Jones, a little horse out of Pennsylvania. Parks is the track, but it's awesome. And journalism could be special. I'm going to try to beat the horse, because a horse that's going to probably go off 3 to 1, he's sitting right now at 3.5 to 1 with, 18 other horses in an unpredictable 150,000 people screaming at you, a wall of horses coming out of the gate. I'm going to try to beat the horse. And I think Sovereignty is the horse that's going to beat him.
I see. I like that. That to me, when you're betting on stuff, make it fun. Don't just go with the favorite every time. You want to have a couple tickets to the favorite on it. And I understand it, but like the point here is if you're going exacta, trifecta, superfecta, whatever it may be, like I want to have some fun. I want some long shots in there. They don't have to be super long, but just not the favorite. And then on your point about bucket list, because I just kind of scribbled down a few events. I think there's a case to be made. This is the number 1 bucket list event. I'll run through a few for you real quick here. So NCAA regional and college hoops would make sense, but if you're there, you're missing all the other regionals. So that's off the list. World Series, it could go 7 games. Who knows if your game's going to be that impactful? It's off the list. Olympics, every 4 years, winter, summer. But again, how many events can you see in person while you're there? Off the list. World Cup, interesting, but how locked in are you going to be if your country doesn't advance? Off the list. Super Bowl, you've done it. I haven't. I don't even want to go to a Super Bowl. That sounds horrible. Off the list. That brings me to the top 3. And I think it's interesting the top 3 bucket list are not your traditional like stick and ball sports that we all talk about, not the mainstream sports. I would put the Derby, I would put the Masters, and I would put the Daytona 500. Now, here is what the Derby has over those 2. The Masters, you can't see every shot. You can't always follow the leader. There's a lot going on. It's impossible to actually get a ticket off the list. Daytona 500's awesome, but it takes all day, kind of like this point right now. That leaves us with the Derby standing alone. The Derby is a party built into about, a 2-minute race, and then you go back to partying. It is the most efficient of all of the options I just laid out for you, and you can see everything that happens.
You can be verbose and long-winded. That was all worth it. I thought it was very well done. And I think you're right. I think the World Cup's a good one because it's kind of a global village.
Yeah.
A global vibe where it's not even about the match. It's just like about, oh my God, all these different cultures. So I like that one that you brought up. I love Masters. I agree. I think the Kentucky Derby, if you can do it, again, it feels regal. It's awesome. You're forced to dress up. And by the time you're in there, you feel cool about being, it's just a different vibe. And I will say this, with races going on all day, the seconds, minutes before and as they're loading into the gate, the energy is tangible amongst the 150,000 people. So there's like this anticipatory vibe that can't be matched in any other sport. And then they're off. And when they're off, there's just an explosion of sound, and that it settles as they start. And then it starts to pick up again. The whole entire just theater of it is unmatched.
And the roar when it's close down the stretch, when you don't know who the winner is coming down the line, and it's palpable. There was a year we did, I can't remember which race it was. It may have been the Derby. It was the Derby.
Yeah, it was California Chrome versus Arrowgate.
Yeah, and it came to, and it was just epic. Did not know who won the race, and it was just epic. And you feel the emotion of something you didn't think you cared about 2 minutes before it started. And all of a sudden you're like, what did I just witness right now?
Yeah. And like horse racing people can be assholes and like, oh, don't come into our sport. It's like, hey, idiot, you want people to come into your sport. Don't cry about your sport not being the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
But when you're there at the track, the vibes are immaculate. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
everybody's just happy to be there and cool to everybody.
It's a sport centered around drinking and gambling. How could anything go wrong here? By the way, the two Derby years, American Pharaoh in 15, Justify in 18.
Yeah, 15 and 18. I was off by a year with American Pharaoh. All right. Yeah, no, that's well put. I think, but you just get out there. Go do it. I guarantee you this. If you go to the Kentucky Derby, you won't walk away and say, it was fine. I know for a fact you won't do that.
You don't even like leaving your house. You didn't want to go to a potential Pistons-Knicks Game 7, but you loved the Kentucky Derby in person.
And I had to work. Like I didn't even really, I couldn't drink. I wasn't even, but it was still that much of an excitement. So yeah, enjoyed it. We have a basketball game coming up at the top of the hour, big guy. We've got a Game 6 in Golden State. We've got our bets coming up next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. You got a game coming up 6 in Golden State tonight in just about 6 minutes. And I do taking a look at the Warriors can close this out. They're the 4th or 5th oldest team in the league, so they needed the rest, and they got the rest. They got a quarter and a half of rest the other night in Houston. They're going to come back. I like the over. Now, you're not getting the best of the number. As Dustin mentioned during the break, open 204 has been bet up to 208.5. So do with that what you will, but I am going over here. And here's the reason. I am not concerned, Dustin, about Houston's offense. They've shot it better than Golden State, even in Golden State. They've rebounded it better. The pace has been faster than most expected. They're getting to the free throw line because they're driving to the basket. So I know Houston's going to give me points, which is something I couldn't have said the first 2 games. Now I expect Golden State to pour it on as well. I'm going to go over the number.
Well, I just like the rest angle for all the Warrior starters. Like, they didn't have to exert themselves. They essentially got an extra day off. They barely played in that game. And by the way, I'm not betting the side. I would like the Warriors in this spot. I know it's a big number to lay, and again, you're getting the worst of it here. But in the month of May, under Steve Kerr, the Warriors have a 69.6 win percentage. They dominate in this month. They've been here a million times. Houston has not. Now they go on the road, and I just don't think the Rockets can repeat what they did on Game 5 in another team's building. They went 55.1% from the floor, 43.3% from the perimeter. I think they'll get theirs, but I think you'll get a different scoring performance from the Warriors where they just outclass them. The thing I like about Houston right now is they adjusted the offense. They're running it through Fred VanVleet. I think that is absolutely necessary. He's capable of hitting big shots. He gets others involved, and you just can't rely on Jalen Green, who has not been the same player in the postseason. The other guy I really like out there is Şengün for them. And then I think we get a lot of this double big lineup with Adams and Şengün. Because of that, that gives the Rockets more opportunities for putbacks. So because of that, I like your over, but I went with a bunch of player props today. The first one is Adams over 7.5 boards. The next, Şengün over 4.5 assists, VanVleet over 23.5 PRA, and then the Warriors are going to get it done tonight. It's because Jimmy Butler's going to get to the free throw line. Over 34.5 PRA for Jimmy Buckets.
Okay, so when Dustin says PRA for new bettors, that's points, rebounds, and assists combined. So he likes the over points, rebound, and assist for both VanVleet and Jimmy Butler. Correct?
Yeah, I just think for
by the way, if I'm forced to take a side, I think Houston probably wins tonight.
Really?
I think, yeah, I don't think what we saw from Golden State's much of it. I don't think they're that good.
I don't disagree, but I do think the rest angle and coming back home, that's why I think I like them here, but I don't like them enough to bet them. I don't like them enough to take that side.
No, I'm not laying 5.5. I can guarantee you that.
No, and I think it's a Jimmy Butler game. I sent you the picture. Steph Curry's had back-to-back bad games. His thumbs are a story, and apparently Houston's going after it. Did you see the picture I sent you, how swollen his thumb is? Something is not right there. That's affecting his shot. I think they rely heavily on Jimmy Butler in this one. That's why I went over 34.5 PRA on him.
Oh, if they're relying on Butler, I love Houston tonight. And Butler is, to me, the most overrated guy of our little generation here.
Guys,
great game, bad game. Great game, bad game. Great game, bad. Like he does go up and down quite a bit.
I feel like your ultimate big three would be Cat, Jimmy Butler, and Anthony Davis together. That would be your favorite big three of all time.
Oh, I like Anthony Davis more than the other two. I don't really have a problem with Anthony Davis. It's just that idiot in Dallas said, "Oh, let's go 1 for 1 for Luka," and so then he ruined Anthony Davis for everybody.
It's still wild. By the way, on the anniversary of the Louisiana Purchase, the greatest deal of all time, we're discussing the worst NBA deal of all time.
Well, speaking of which, the Louisiana Purchase, Monroe was over there in France, and he was sent there just to buy Louisiana and New Orleans. They were like, you want the whole entire territory? He couldn't get back to Jefferson, and he just made an executive decision, said, we'll take the territory. Monroe's an underrated founding father.
Monroe, basically Rob Pelinka.
Eric Egros is going to join us. FanDuel Sports Network next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Just want to tell Ed I did hear him, and I agree about Redondo. Ed Egros is going to join us. Let me just tell you quickly what's coming up here on Mad Dog Sports Radio, not only, but Sirius XM, of course. Tonight, you've got coming up in just a bit, so you can go to NBA Radio. We've got the Warriors hosting Houston about the tip, and you can find out more about it as well on the Sirius XM app. Okay, Ed Egros is joining us now as we welcome him in, a fellow Californian here. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. FanDuel, Ed joins us. Let me just make sure I get the plug correct. FanDuel Sports Network, West Analytics Analyst. That's a mouthful. At Ed with Sports on Twitter. We say hi to Ed. Let's do this quickly before they tip. Do you have an opinion side total with Warriors hosting the Rockets?
Absolutely, I do. I know Houston's had a ton of success with that two-center lineup, Steven Adams, Alpin Şengün. And if you make them assist guys, I think that's when their offense is at its scariest. And I'm curious, like, over the course of a series like this, like, at some point, we're going to see a lot more ISO plays. We're going to see the big men try and score themselves because that perimeter defense by the Warriors are going to be just too fantastic. So I think this is going to be a game where it's maybe the Draymond Green game or other defenders who really step up. And maybe they don't do it glamorously, but I think it's enough to where this is going to be a lower scoring game. Not to mention the fact that if you look historically at playoff series, Game 6 is really when the score starts to go down a great deal. It's not the Game 7, it's the Game 6 where I feel like unders are more profitable. So I love the under total in this game.
I love that. Okay, interesting. When it comes to the Warriors, in your world, someone with the numbers, right? Are they a frustrating team to get a read on? Because so much of it is lore and history. and all these things that Curry and Kerr have pulled off in years past. Is it difficult to like peg them down when it comes to the analytics?
You hit the nail on the head here, because I remember when they were sort of going through that dynasty, they didn't have the best of regular seasons. Like, the offense was always just a little bit tricky. The defense, like, you knew they could defend pick and rolls really, really well, but sometimes they wouldn't, or sometimes they would just try funky matchups, or they were big into load management, all those kinds of things, to where the regular season kind of felt a little fraudulent. And so one thing that I would have to do in terms of handicapping whatever they could do during the dynasty was almost emphasize playoff runs just a little bit more, because it's almost as though Steve Kerr kind of revolutionized regular season basketball in a way by saying, you know what, we're going to get our 50 wins, we're going to get our 55 wins. Whatever we do after that, let's just tinker with random lineups so that I know literally everything I need to know about my basketball team, so that I'm prepared for just about anything thrown my way. I don't think every team has the luxury of doing that, which is probably one of the reasons why you look at this season, for instance, Oklahoma City, they are spectacular, but there are some serious questions about if they can do it in the playoffs, and that's why. It's one thing to showcase what you can do in the regular season, but do you have the adjustments? Are you flexible enough to handle whatever is thrown your way? And so when I'm talking about like Rockets Warriors game 6, yeah, I trust Steve Kerr a great deal more. Coaching matchup is great on both sides, but this is one of those deals where there are just enough bullets in the chamber, historically speaking, when you still have Green, you still have Curry, you've got all, Jimmy Butler, all these other great guys. You go, okay, they're going to figure out some way to force these big guys to play more ISO ball, and that's going to play into the Warriors' advantage. And they just keep finding ways to do it.
Ed Egros joining us. Apologize. FanDuel. Yeah, that one. Also a rest advantage, because they literally halfway through the third the other night they pulled the plug, and that was the right move. I mean, they were down 27 at the break, right? They had to pull the starters.
Absolutely. Like, it's something where maybe Greg Popovich, as we honor him today, as he switches jobs, he's someone who very much specializes in this whole, you know what, if you've lost the game in a series, just go ahead and give up early, because the last thing you want to do is try out some other wrinkle that your opposition will ultimately be prepared for. There's no such thing as a moral victory in a playoff series. Go ahead and quit. Don't put anything else on quote unquote film, and be prepared for that next game going forward. I mean, if you're asking me to pick a side here, I think the Warriors can probably close this thing out, but definitely in a lower scoring game, you can understand why, because they're going to have some defensive things to throw at Houston's path.
We do have a game 7 tomorrow. Curious what the numbers say about game 7s. It's the Clippers and the Nuggets right now. Denver's a short favorite, -1.5, 206 the total. And Ed, I imagine Denver's probably a little bit like Golden State when it comes to the numbers and what you're seeing on the actual floor, just because I keep watching them wondering when they're just going to completely run out of gas. It just feels like it takes every ounce of energy to finish these games at this point for that really short roster. What do you think of tomorrow, game 7, Clippers and Nugs?
Well, I think one of the reasons for that is just because, Ty Lue, he's brilliant, right? Like, he's throwing all these random matchups at Nikola Jokic, and Owen Phillips has done a really good job at sort of charting who has been the primary defender or has the greatest responsibility throughout the series. And James Harden has been drawing some of that assignment in Game 5, and he largely did a fairly good job in that contest. It's just that the Nuggets were just shooting lights out, and they're going to win that game regardless. But now Norman Powell has been part of the mix in Game 6, and, he had some of his successes going up against Jokic. And so it's one of those things where Ty Lue, he's been just a mastermind in terms of just finding different things to sort of exhaust the possibilities. Because the reason why teams get exhausted, some of it may be age, but it's also too, if you're just so indecisive and you're having to run back and forth horizontally as well as vertically, say in transition, at some point you're just going to wear down because of that indecisiveness. So many different matchups that you just aren't quite expecting. And this is one of those questions where I go, okay, does Ty Lue have one more thing that he can do? Because I think the Nuggets can be prepared for going up against Powell or Zubats or whomever, but is there one more random thing that happens? And typically in a 7-game series, that's not the case. It's just the stars trying to win games for their teams. And so if you're asking me who I think the best player on the floor is, it's definitely going to be Jokic. I mean, you can look at Darko, you can look at all sorts of random numbers that basically prove that Jokic is the best player here. But at the same time, as I'm handicapping this game 7, I think a lot of it is also this idea of, okay, who could lose this game for the series? I know Michael Porter Jr. has certainly been targeted a great deal here, but if he can just step his game up a little bit more, then I think the Nuggets can very well run away with this. One same game parlay that I found really interesting was MPJ to go over 10.5 points because he's got to stay out there for defensive purposes. I wonder if MPJ over 10.5 points and the Nuggets to cover the spread. I think I saw plus 214. It's a funky bet, but why the heck not?
By the way, Winnipeg just netted a goal to start the second. This is a big Blues house, Ed. So our friends are Blues fans, so we wanted to take a price with the Blues. So Winnipeg ties it up 1-1 just to start the second. Ed Egros joining us, FanDuel. So I'm a Pistons fan, and Jalen essentially said, "Go home, kid," which is respectful. He was incredible over that last 5 minutes. He's been awesome, obviously, for the Knicks. They're not respected in the market. I think Dustin told me the Celtics are laying $8 on the series. Do you even give the Knicks a shot here? What's your take?
I think I would. I think I saw Celtics -1.5 at -240 on the series, and that's probably the way to go here, where there is some respect there. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a runaway. If for no other reason, like what were the Celtics known for last year en route to a championship? It was that just about anybody could shoot and nail threes. Like you're talking about the 10th, 11th guy coming off the bench and being able to knock down a few triples and just roll over everybody. And to an extent, they still have that skill. The problem as far as the matchup is concerned, I like this Knicks perimeter defense. I think there are enough things there to at least make this a little bit interesting. So as far as the series goes, yeah, Boston's going to win this thing. But, as far as game one is concerned, I might make this more of a stay away. See what sort of, random defensive things the Knicks might throw their way. And if there's any kind of success whatsoever, then maybe I'd start to hammer the series going 6 games, 7 games, because I do think New York can do just enough to keep this thing interesting. But ultimately, Boston's going to advance.
In a series, Ed, where I don't know if America is going to be captivated by Indiana and Cleveland, but I think the basketball play could potentially be really fun, especially if Indiana's offense gets going against Cleveland. Right now, the Cavs are laying 8.5. 229 is the total for game one. That game is on Sunday. Would you think about doing anything with this series?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, first off, America is wrong. This is a fantastic series, and America ought to be ashamed. I'm patriotic. Never mind. Look, no offense has had more points per transition than Cleveland. I think that's safe to say. Pacers aren't far behind in that capacity, though. So if this turns into a track meet that's like super high tempo, first off, that's just fun to watch, and so enjoy it for what it is. But also, too, the question is, who's going to commit more live ball turnovers? Because that's where all the transition is supposed to come from. And the problem is, for Cleveland, Indiana has the 3rd fewest live ball turnovers in the regular season. And so as far as a matchup is concerned, this isn't necessarily the best thing for Cleveland to face at this juncture. This is going to be something where we talked about matchups earlier. This is going to be something where you can't just rely on the transition game every single time. You can't just keep pushing the tempo because Indiana, A, is prepared for it. They're pretty decent as far as transition defense is concerned, as far as I could check. But then also, too, Indiana's not going to give them too many opportunities to do that. They've played Cleveland really well this year. And sometimes you can just throw a lot of different bench players at the problem and make game one really interesting. Rick Carlisle is one of the best head coaches in the NBA right now. I expect him to come up with some funky matchup in game one to keep this thing close. So I think the Pacers can cover game one, and this may even be a 6 to 7 game series.
Ed, we know Oklahoma City's great. By the numbers, how great are they?
Well, when you look at point differential, they are absolutely special. I mean, one of the top, point differential teams in NBA history. They did it for a reason because, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's always fascinating to watch a guard be able to protect the basketball as well as he does. Like, you talk about turnover numbers, like for guards, okay, they're a little bit inflated, but for him, he protects it. He's always making the right decisions. And to me, he is the MVP as far as that's concerned for a fantastic team very much built around him that can do so many different things. And so if we're talking about who can win the NBA championship, I know others have put it the same way, and I'll repeat it. there are really only three teams I think can do it. The Celtics can do it. The Cavs can do it, though this is a tricky matchup for them against Indiana. And absolutely, Oklahoma City can do it. I don't know anyone else in the West who I think really can contend for a title other than Oklahoma City.
What's crazy is all of a sudden I'm looking at the odds, and the next team after the three you just mentioned, Ed, is the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have put together a really good couple of months here. They've hit their stride. They take care of the Lakers pretty easily when that was a trendy play for everyone. And Patrick or I are in the camp that after that Karl Anthony Towns trade, Minnesota's actually better and they're deeper. I'm not sure the numbers bear that out, but that's just what it looks like to us. They're waiting on either Houston or Golden State in the next round. How good can Minnesota potentially be here?
Well, they're rested. You know that much. That means something. And also, like, how about we give Coach Finch his flowers, right? Like, he figured out how to sort of tap into this and absolutely exhaust the Lakers. I mean, I think I saw one thing where, what Minnesota was able to do in that series was basically start guarding much sooner than most everybody else, to where they had to work just a little bit harder, crossing the timeline, things like that. Another shout out to Owen Phillips for coming up with that stat. But to me, having a rested team, helps a great deal. Again, you go back to average point differential in victories. Minnesota's fourth in this context. Like the top three I mentioned, they're 9 or higher. Then in fourth place is 5 points with Minnesota. And then after that, it's everybody else. And so the fact that they can play big, they can play small, they're really, really versatile. Absolutely, Minnesota is going to be a tough out. I don't necessarily consider them of that same tier of championship caliber contenders. But if you're giving me a second tier, Minnesota does lead the way.
Ed Egrosh joining us, of course. FanDuel, by the way, they ripped the goal away from Winnipeg. I didn't see why. I did not either. I did not see why. It's still St. Louis, so the Blues lead 1-0 over the Jets. Once a Blue, always a Blue. This show is certainly a Blue. Speaking of hockey, like I knew Colorado was going to be favored tomorrow night, but $1.42 at a couple of shops over Dallas, like Dallas was in that game last night, and then Colorado pulled away. Dallas has been wonderful in the series. Do you think Colorado should be that heavily favored?
I don't. I think your intuition's spot on here. I think in large part, like you look at the end of the regular season for the Stars. Yeah, I know it was sputtering out of control, of course. And that's why there were some real concerns about this one. But I mean, the fact that it got to a game 7 is a bit of a victory as far as I'm concerned. Dallas is at home. There are plenty of pieces there where I feel fairly comfortable that Dallas could at least pull off the victory. But even if they don't, I'm with you. This is largely mispriced. I didn't necessarily see an injury or two that would make me further question what the Stars are capable of doing, because the concerns as far as who was going to play, who wasn't going to play, they've largely patched these things up. I would not let 2 to 3 goals by Colorado in such a short period of time in Game 6 sway our opinion of Dallas too much. I think absolutely you're getting some good value taking them to win this game outright.
Okay, it's that time of year, Ed, where the people of Toronto really start to believe, and at some point the Maple Leafs rip their heart out. They advance, they're taking on the Panthers here. Game 1, they are a home dog, slightly plus 105, minus 125 when it comes to the other side in Florida. And then in the series, when I get to the updated price, they're plus 145. Why should people believe the Leafs are different this year?
First of all, just a general thought as far as looking at some of these prices for this series and others. Is it just me, or does it seem like how they performed last year in the playoffs is sort of swaying our thinking a little bit too much? Because you look at what Florida has done. Yeah, Florida's had a good regular season, like no doubt about it. But, Edmonton was not what it was a season ago. All these other teams that performed well in the playoffs, it was just one of those deals where I'm looking at that series and others, and I go, we need to stop thinking that last year's playoffs are entirely indicative of what this year's hockey clubs are. And this to me is a great version of this, where you look at, say, Toronto's goalie, for instance, Anthony Stolarz. He is someone who not only was a fantastic netminer a season ago, he's been fantastic this year, especially when it comes to high danger situations. And Florida will find ways to manufacture a great deal of them. So I trust the goaltending. I trust the forward depth in Toronto a great deal more than, say, I did in seasons past. Toronto's got a better PDO in general. Florida takes more penalties. That may not be as much of a concern, say, in a second round Stanley Cup playoff series, but it's something where Toronto, with that forward depth, they get more 5-on-4 situations. I trust them to cash in on a great deal of those. And so absolutely, this is a different season. This is a different Toronto team than in seasons past. Absolutely, I think they can win this thing.
You know, it's funny. Florida was horrible down the stretch. Now, I know they were dealing with injuries. I completely misread them. I thought Tampa would push them. They didn't. Toronto, as Dustin mentioned, the storied pass, they're up big. They come back home. They get blanked 4-0 by Ottawa and then go on the road and beat Ottawa. Like, that is the hell they put that fan base through is hilarious in Toronto.
Isn't it? It's something where you have to sort of console your Maple Leafs fans, like find them, track them down, make sure they're part of a group chat of some kind and figure out the right emoji to use in the right situation and make sure everyone's on the same page. Otherwise, I guess making fun is all right, but they've just gone through too much. Like, is there any other hockey fan base that you feel uncomfortable criticizing? Like maybe a small market one, but for Toronto, I think they've been through enough.
Yeah, they definitely deserve one. However, I do enjoy watching it burn every single time because it always does it on a grand stage, right? It's always like really epic, and they really believed it was going to happen. This year was going to be different. And speaking of epic, VGK and the Oilers, could this potentially be a really flashy, fun series where Edmonton's a slight favorite at -115 and the Golden Knights are -105?
Dustin, I'm glad you brought this up because just before I came on, my last bet that I placed before coming on here was taking Vegas to win the series against Edmonton. And, as someone who watches the Kings regularly and watched the Kings-Oilers series and, still dealing with that PTSD, I'm not sure that the problems that we articulated concerning the Oilers this season have been resolved. I think they're still very much there, alive and well. They don't have the forward depth from a season ago. Yeah, Connor McDavid, phenomenal. Leandro Draisaitl, phenomenal. They don't have a whole heck of a lot after that. And the fact that the Kings, gave up goals to, guys you don't necessarily think too much of, that is more of an indictment against Los Angeles than it is necessarily something that the Oilers did really, really well in terms of, having a lot of depth. Also, the power play defense was something where the Oilers were really, really good at this a season ago. Then, when they were on the power play, like you put in your top two stars, they're phenomenal. Those things have just sort of regressed just enough where I feel like that special teams just isn't what it was a season ago. So like I said, all of the problems at Edmonton, we listed are still there. And I think this is a great opportunity for Vegas to kind of cash in on those things as being a more well-rounded hockey team. I absolutely think Vegas can win this thing.
By the way, if you laid the yes on will Draymond get a flagrant foul within 2 minutes of the game, you just cashed.
Oh, wow.
And I'll say this, boys, he's getting kicked out tonight because he got the flagrant. And then I don't know if you saw it, Dustin, I know Ed was answering the question, but he got up in the ref's face like he legitimately wanted to fight him. So, and the ref showed great constraint, and he wouldn't stop bitching. Draymond, who I used to love, is too much at this point. It's too much.
I don't even know what he was arguing. He pulled Jalen Green's hair and tried to pull him down to the ground. It was in the middle of the court. If you took away the nonsense, there is something beautiful about Draymond Green, the old school physicality, the way he can facilitate, the way he defends. But you have to factor in the nonsense. He is as frustrating a player. I can't defend him anymore. I can't.
Ed, he's out of control.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, it's something too where like we've seen this story for such a long period of time that like I wish there was something flashier or there were new ways to get kicked out of basketball games. But at some point, like it's the same old story, and we want him to be out there for this game. Like if this were earlier in the series, then it would be fun. But like this is a critical game 6. Like we want to see special Draymond Green. Like kudos to the refs for not kicking him out, but. Goodness gracious, like we want him out there. This is going to be fun, and we don't want him ruining it.
No, he's a great defender. He probably should have just got tossed. The ref, but like I said, showed constraint. So Draymond with the flagrant. Before we say goodbye, do you get into, I'm not expecting a pick, but do you get into the Kentucky Derby at all?
A little bit. I think it's something where probably in like 2 hours, around 8:30 Pacific time, that's when the sort of the realization dawns where, oh, wow, the Kentucky Derby is tomorrow. I really start to, I need to start handicapping this and figuring out if I'm going to, place a bet or not. It is something, too, where like you look at the history of winners, like it was a lot of favorites for a significant period of time. And now we're getting, quasi random horses winning. And so now I think that gives me further motivation to start to handicap a little bit earlier. I probably won't go to, say, one of the tracks around Los Angeles this year, but definitely it's a good time.
Well, yeah, we haven't had a morning line favorite win since 2018 in Justify, so you're 100% right. Go ahead, Dustin.
And then just a statement to the masses, as a Dallas guy, as a Mavs fan, and Luka looking the way he did, getting eliminated, you do or don't believe Nico Harrison was vindicated in all of this?
Nico Harrison will never be vindicated for the rest of his life. Mark it down. It does not matter what happens anywhere, anyhow. The Mavericks could win a championship. That doesn't vindicate it. Luka could never play another minute of NBA basketball again. That doesn't vindicate it either. It was a terrible trade in terms of the value received. That is what matters.
Worst trade in the history of sports. I don't even think it's close when you factor in the fact that he's 25. Ed Egros, great job. FanDuel Sports Network, West Analytics Analyst. That's tough for me. At Ed with Sports on Twitter. That was fun, man. Enjoy your Friday night and good luck to you.
I always make it tough on everybody. Appreciate you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. There goes Ed Egros, who did a great job with us there. I liked his energy. But yeah, while Ed was answering Dustin, I mentioned that Draymond, and again, I think the ref showed constraint.
Oh, did you see what happened next?
No,
Draymond tried.
He took a charge.
He tried to draw a charge on Şengün, and I don't believe they called it. And maybe that was because of the way he was hit. I mean, if you just go online right now and you just watch the highlight of the technical, the flagrant, I don't even know what the case could be made that it's not a flagrant. He rips him down. We're in the first quarter of a game 6. What the hell is he thinking?
Well, I think he's legitimately a little unstable.
No, he is.
We've reached that point where it's not that interesting. It's not that funny. It's a little weird. It's a little scary. It's odd.
Yeah. The kicking.
He tries to hurt people.
Yeah,
he tries to legitimately hurt people.
Kicking people in the nuts was like one thing, and then it became like twisting people when they're on the ground and twisting their legs. Like, it's kind of sick. And there used to be ways where he'd get in people's heads and mess with them. Now it's just strict like bully stuff, and it doesn't fly.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Got a surprise. Our boy Thomas Gable, who runs the Borgata Race and Sports Book. He's back, and he's going to join us next here. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
So the Jets tied it up early in the second period with the Blues in St. Louis. The goal got taken away, and then the Jets went on a power play and did officially tie it up. So we got 1-1 as far as Jets at Blues. And right now, Rockets Warriors, 4:27 to play, 15-14 the Rockets lead. Draymond up to his old antics with already he's got a flagrant, screaming at the ref, just acting a fool. All right, not a fool, our next guest. And our next guest is a legitimate friend. We haven't spoken to Thomas Gable, who runs the Racing Sportsbook at the Borgata, the finest property on the East Coast and, of course, in Atlantic City. We haven't talked to him since the NCAA tournament. So as we say hi to TG, I don't see him on the line there, Isaiah. Could you punch him up for me? As we say hi to TG, first off, how have you been?
Doing well, guys. How have you been?
Well, we've been great. What have you been doing since the tournament? I know you've been working, but anything going on in your life?
Been working. Last Friday, I actually dined at Rayo's in New York for dinner. So that was the first time there. Great experience.
Wow.
So that was pretty good. But yeah, today it's all about work and with the Oaks today, and then the Derby tomorrow.
Have you spoken to our good friend Michael Lombardi about his coworker Jordan Hudson?
So I have not. Michael and I realize Michael shouldn't be speaking to somebody of like myself at this point, in his position. Probably shouldn't be associating with bookmakers. So I've kept my distance, and but it was interesting. I had dinner tonight with a mutual friend, and that was certainly a topic of conversation. And yeah, I mean, listen, I don't really know what to say other than everything's pretty much out there as far as what's going on. I mean, it's pretty insane.
Well, I'll say this. Lombardi went from talking to bookmakers to talking to cheerleaders. Anyway, I digress. Let's go. A big day tomorrow at the Borgata. It's a great race book, and you've got Kentucky Derby. But how was Oaks Day today on a Friday?
It was good. It was good. Busy day, and we're just trying to get as much Derby volume through today because obviously you could start Tuesday was when they opened up the pari-mutuel pool for the Derby. So anything that will kind of take off some of the volume that you're going to see tomorrow is good. So you're just trying to get as many people through tonight still. When I left there was probably still a line of about 20, 25 deep in the Derby only line. So it's, people are coming in. It's an extremely high volume weekend. With the Derby, it's people who bet one horse race a year, and it's kind of like the Super Bowl in that sense. People who don't bet football or bet sports regularly, they want to bet Super Bowl just because it's the Super Bowl. Same thing with the Derby. People who don't bet horses, this is the one time a year that they'll come out to bet horses, and I think as you can imagine, those transactions just typically take longer. So those people are at the windows when normal horse bettors, they're in and out in, 20 seconds out of the window. People who aren't used to it have questions, and, you try to help them through it, may not exactly know what they're trying to bet. So they tie up the windows a little bit longer. So that's why you try to get as much volume out of the way today with that group, because you're just going to be dealing with it from the minute you open tomorrow. You're going to have a line out the door.
TG, from like a single event perspective, like what is the handle like for this event compared to some of the other markers we see along the year, the Masters, Daytona 500, the Super Bowl, the World Series? Like, where does this rank in terms of the amount of action you're getting?
Well, for us, we write probably in terms of just a handle that you take in, it probably goes, something like Super Bowl, NFL playoffs, up there at the top. March Madness is certainly right up there, and then it's the Derby. It is that big, and in terms of the amount of right that you do for it. So it certainly exceeds, the NBA playoffs. It'll exceed, the NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball, anything else that's going on currently. That's for sure. So it's and just the amount of people that go through, it's honestly probably more volume just in terms of the people and the amount of tickets that you're writing than any other event of the year.
That's amazing. Speaking of betting, let's talk about hockey because St. Louis, they were tied 1-1. They just got 2 quick goals. So the Blues lead 3-1 over Winnipeg, and the boys in the chat are going crazy. Are they betting it? Are they betting the Stanley Cup playoffs at the Borgata?
Oh yeah. I mean, the NHL playoffs, it picks up. It's still, in terms of a comparison with the NBA, it pales in comparison to the NBA playoffs and what you're writing game to game. And but it's an uptick from what you would see in the regular season with the NHL. So with the Jets and Blues tonight, we have a small decision in that we'll need the Blues, but not a big decision. And then tomorrow looks like we'll probably need the Stars for tomorrow night's game.
Back to the Derby, TG. Curious how they're betting the field right now, and what do you make of this field? Have there been any surprises to you that stand out from where the action has gone so far with journalism as the big favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's conversation starts with the favorite journalism. Won the Santa Anita Derby in April and coming in here with 4 straight wins. Is currently sitting around 4-1, and his speed figures are among the best in the field, and he's certainly, I think, well suited to race a mile and a quarter. Umberto Rispoli, the jockey, he's handled him well, and I think if there's perhaps one concern, it's the size of the field. Journalism is used to competing against small fields in California, and we know sometimes the traffic in the Derby is too much to handle, but I think he drew a great post. And this horse just doesn't have a lot of question marks around him coming in. So he's certainly going to be a popular pick. You're seeing right now Sandman taking money as well. He's down to 4-1, ridden by Jose Ortiz. And this horse is a closer. Won the Arkansas Derby where he rallied from 8th in a 9-horse field. And again, I think field size could come into play here with Sandman if he gets blocked in, and he could lose momentum, but I think if the early pace is fast, that will ultimately benefit Sandman. And the same thing with Sovereignty. Right now, currently 9-1. Junior Alvarado back on board there with Sovereignty. He won the Fountain of Youth. Sovereignty came in second in the Florida Derby, but Alvarado missed that race. He was dealing with a minor injury then. But he'll be back here, and much like Sandman, he's a closer. He'll need to navigate the large field and take aim at the early leaders. But Sovereignty is a horse I'm going to be using. Patrick, I'm sure you probably went through your picks already for the Derbies. I don't know who you're using, but I'm definitely looking at Sovereignty, and probably at least for the exotics, going to be using Luxor Cafe, the Japanese horse, and Final Gambit as well.
You just said the 2 horses I'm using. By the way, you're going to get your Blues decision. They had another goal, 4-1, 5:34 to go in the second. The Blues are up on Winnipeg. Thomas, if we get Sovereignty at 9-1, it's going to be the craziest price I've ever bet on a horse. I swear to you. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going to close 9-1. And so I love Sovereignty. I'm going to play Sovereignty to win. Going to use them in all my tickets. And then you mentioned the Japanese horse. Luxor Cafe has won 4 straight, has gotten better with each race. The last 2 Kentucky Derbies, we've seen the Japanese horses ship and do well. I really like the 7-horse Luxor Cafe.
Yeah, I think certainly worth a look here. 1 of 2 Japanese horses in the race. And as you said, Japanese horses never really had success in the Kentucky Derby. And then you saw Forever Young lost by 2 noses. And I had Forever Young. I remember that well. But as you said, on a 4-race win streak currently, and son of the 2015 Triple Crown winner, American Pharoah.
TG, talk to me about Sandman. Sandman, similar to Sovereignty, is a horse that I heard people mention as a closer. How do you feel about Sandman coming into the Derby?
I like Sandman. I think there's a reason he is taking money. He's down to 4-1. I think he's going to be a very popular play overall. And Jose Ortiz, great jockey. And he's showed what he's made of. I think that all you have to do is watch the Arkansas Derby back, and you'll see how he closed that. So again, I think it's all going to be about whether he can get a clear trip here and not get blocked in. But I think he can certainly contend for a win.
DG, I know you're going to laugh because the horse is out of New York. And the wood certainly hasn't produced winners. I liked Rodriguez. I thought he was going to be the speed out of the 4-hole. I liked him. I think it hurts the race without him in it. However, Baeza is a horse that a lot of cappers like. Do you have a take on the addition of Baeza?
Well, as you said, I know a lot of horse players were happy when he made it into the field. And, I obviously didn't qualify on points. There was a reason for that. But I know just a lot of horse players feel like he is rounding into form here. And I'm certainly happy that he's in the field now, currently sitting 18-1 or so in the pool. So, and Flavian Pratt obviously is going to be getting a ride there. So, Rodriguez scratching out of the 2 Baffert horses. I thought he was probably the better shot for Baffert here. But now you just have Citizen Bull remaining for Baffert. And if you remember, Patrick, this was maybe 6-8 months ago, Citizen Bull was talked about like this was, almost like a foregone conclusion that he was going to win.
Absolutely. He was talked about how journalism's talked about now.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And obviously we have seen Citizen Bull come back down to earth, and you won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and just a lot was expected of him. But with him, he needs to set the pace, and he didn't do that at Santa Anita in the Santa Anita Derby. Got tired late, ended up 4th out of the 5 runners. Obviously, a very tough starting position here, drawing the inside post position. And the fact that this race is longer by a furlong than the 1 1/8 mile of the Santa Anita Derby, I just think there's concern from Citizen Bull. I'm not using him in anything.
No.
So TG, from our time talking college hoops, I like long shots. They are one of my 3 favorite types of shots, to go with tequila shots and back shots. You don't have to comment on that. That is just a statement from me, TG. Can you find me a fun long shot that I can put on some of my tickets for Saturday?
I would use Final Gambit, 16-1 right now. I'm going to be using him in some exotics. He's winner of the Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway. That was on an all-weather surface. Now, the Derby will actually be his first start on dirt. But recently, the winner of the Jeff Ruby has had success in the Kentucky Derby with Rich Strike, obviously, in 2022. 2 Fills was the runner-up in 2023. Also had the 2 Fills that year. So, and Final Gambit is a closer trained by Brad Cox. I'm not going to play him to win, but again, we haven't seen him on dirt ever, but definitely at the price, I'm definitely going to be using him in exotic. So I would recommend Final Gambit. I don't know how, Patrick, you feel about him.
Yeah, I'm using Final Gambit. I agree with Citizen Bull. You can't, with those, 19 other horses crashing down on the 1 hole, you can't use Citizen Bull. In fact, the draw is so important here. If you're not in the middle or a little outside, it's really tough.
Yeah, and the other thing is too the weather. They're going to get some precipitation there tomorrow. Now it looks like with the forecast, there's going to be a break for probably a couple hours there, maybe before it posts. So the Churchill track that does dry pretty quickly there, so it could be rated as fast or good by the time the Derby comes around. But journalism has only ever raced on dry tracks. So if this is a wet track, this would be a first for journalism.
TG, where does horse racing rank for you? Obviously, we did college hoops. We've talked NFL. Where does it fall into your favorite sports to bet on and watch?
That's a good question. I mean, it's definitely for me, college basketball comes first. I mean, that's always been the thing that I've handicapped probably the longest in my life. I'm doing it for decades, and football as well. But I've been betting horses since probably legally I was allowed to by age. So it's just that I kind of started. That's how a lot of people get started with gambling is horse racing. That's no different for me. Going to the tracks and OTBs before you're technically of legal age to do so. That's really what got me started, and so I just I do still like the horses, and certainly the prep races leading up to the Derby are great. I really enjoy them, and getting to this time of year is a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I love it too. We'll have to text with our plays tomorrow, TG. Speaking of texting, all I want to do is text Lombardi and say, I just want to say this. How's the new gig?
I'm sure there's listen, I'll ask you this. I mean, I know there was kind of regular Pat McAfee appearances between him and Belichick. I don't know if there's been one in the last week.
No.
I don't think
no.
So.
It is but here's the best part or the worst part. It's only going to get weirder. So get your popcorn, TG.
Listen, I think at some point you have to rein her in, right? You just somebody has to put their foot down and say, listen, you can be the girlfriend, but that's the extent. You can't come around the program. You can't be doing any sort of PR or getting involved with interviews or anything like that, or really just go banish her to a cave for basically the next 8 months and don't let her see the light of day.
TG, she was jumping in on football questions to Bill Belichick.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Can't make it up. And I said this about Belichick. I'm not. He's giving men a bad name. TG, pull yourself together, Bill.
Yeah, I think at some point, every man in their life, they probably have to make a decision, right? That they may come across that one female,
of course,
where it's like, hey, do you go with this female and possibly screw up everything else in your life, or do you take a pass and say, hey, nah, I'm good. I'm going to continue on with my life the way that it is because
I've been there, done it, and that's why I'm single at 47, Thomas. So
you and me both.
No, guys, honestly, the meteoric rise that she's found to be able to latch on to these guys, and she has like an incredible real estate portfolio. She basically runs the North Carolina football program. TG, I need you to give me odds. Could you give me $1 million to 1 that Jordan Hudson runs and wins president in the next election? Because I'll take that. I want that bet. I want to place money on it. I believe in her. She can do anything if she's controlling Bill Belichick.
You know what? If I give you $1 million to 1, Dustin, I'll book that.
Okay, well, we'll book it. Thomas Gable, the Borgata Race and Sportsbook Director. Stop by the Borgata tomorrow if you're near Atlantic City, because it's one of the bigger parties of the year, and they do a great job over there at the Borgata. Hey, it's nice to catch up with you, my friend. We'll text tomorrow about the Derby, and good to chat, okay?
All right, appreciate it. Are you guys invested at all in this Rockets Warrior team?
I actually did go over on it.
Okay.
Dustin's got about 1 million props.
Yeah, it's not going to go. This is going to be a bad day for me. I have 12 bets at VSiN.com, and I'll be lucky if I win 3 of them.
What's the decision you guys need?
We actually will need the Rockets here tonight. So, but it's weird. We need the Warriors for the series on the series price, but this particular game, Rockets would be a good result for us.
All right. Well, they're up, and good luck to you. You're going to win. St. Louis is up 5-1 on Winnipeg. Thanks, TG. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye. There goes Thomas Gable, the Borgata Race and Sports Book Director, one of the best guys around. While we were talking to Thomas, St. Louis scored 4 unanswered. They lead Winnipeg 5-1 with 49 seconds to go in the second. Just an incredible run. And we'll get you updated coming back on Houston at Golden State and also close some tabs on a Friday. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Let's get Brian in Virginia in with the Kentucky Derby coming up, talking horses. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Patrick. Hey, Dustin.
What's up, buddy?
Great show as usual.
Thank you. What do you got tomorrow?
How are you guys?
Tell us.
I'm stoked for the Derby tomorrow. I thought Oaks Day was great. I'm glad they got the races off with the rain. And I'm hoping that tomorrow stays sunny enough. We will see. It would be great to see the races that are on the turf stay on the turf. It's going to be a great Derby.
I honestly think it's a great field. I really do. I think some of these long shots could even win. I'm going to try to beat journalism. Obviously the best horse in the field, but it's 19 horses, Brian.
Yeah. And I think the point system is good for the Kentucky Derby. I think there's better horses in the field. Maybe 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years ago, there were some owners who just put their horses in there to run in the Derby, and that is fair. But there's good horses in there, and I will never bet a 7-2 to win the Kentucky Derby. There's so many good horses.
Do you think he goes off at 7-2?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he ran a pretty good race. I think Baeza in there actually might help him with that race that he's coming out of. He did get beat up in the Santa Anita Derby. That race it might have been built to beat him, but I think he goes off as a very chalky favorite.
I do too. Do you want to give us one horse you're looking at before we say goodbye?
Yep, I think it's Burnham Square from the back. He ran an awesome race in the Bluegrass. He closes like another. In that last race at Gulfstream Park, the one before, he raced against some great horses, and the horses in this race, he lost to Somertine. He lost to River Thames, who will be running the Pat Day Mile. He ran against Neoquist, came fourth, and then he came back from behind and chased down every horse in the Bluegrass. Citizen Bull would have gone gate to wire if Rodriguez could hold everybody outside. He's gone. Citizen Bull will get pushed by East Avenue at Meyer Daytona. Will go. Burnham Square chases them all down at the end of the day.
Burnham Square with the turn a foot late.
There you go. Good night.
Right, yeah, I have a thanks, Brian, and good luck to you. I have a friend that likes Burnham Square as well. So, and he's smart.
Burnham Square's won races, but people doubt the horse. I don't understand it.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to get a lot of good prices. He's right about Citizen Bull. 1 hole. Rodriguez was going to break and was going to hold the wall off out of the 4 hole, and then Citizen Bull could have snuck up right inside him. But now it's just going to come crashing down because the speed is gone.
See, here's my hot take. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad field. It's always going to have juice. I'm sorry. It's always going to have juice.
It's impossible not to get into it. It's just about the Preakness because it carries over. You know who won the Derby. Is he going to be entered in the Preakness? And if he is, the juice is nuts. Good job out of the big guy. Isaias, thank you. Ryan Smith, as always, we appreciate you. All the guests, can't remember them, but you did a great job. Thomas Gable, I do remember. We'll see you on Monday. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.